Hi guys, it's me, HD, and welcome to the final race of 2019. The 2019 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. It's got a very, I think today, a very last day at school type feeling. And to be honest, I cannot wait for the end of the season because it has been a very long season, very tiring season. 21 races, even for someone like me covering the sport, is very tiring. And I think, considering the season, it is a good time to end it, so close to Christmas and all that. But yeah, I cannot wait for today's race. Hopefully, we are going to get some good battles between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Hopefully, the Ferraris are not as bad as I think they're going to be. And the midfield is looking very good. And also, Valtteri Bottas will be coming through the field as well. So, hopefully, possible battles that could occur actually do end up occurring to give us most likely we're not going to have a great Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, but something that we can think back on as, some good moments here and there in this Grand Prix. But hopefully you guys for this final race are doing well on this Sunday the 1st of December. And yeah, hopefully you guys are doing well. And no matter what time it is in the world, hopefully with me and Nib, who will be joining later on, you will watch along and enjoy with us the final race of 2019 and also the final race of the 2010s decade. It really has flown by, hasn't it, this decade? But yeah, it is the final race of this decade. And considering previous decades, it has been the greatest in Formula One history. There's been a lot of domination in the last 9-10 years. But there's been some great moments, and it's going to be nice to cap it off in this Grand Prix. But before we get into the teams and how I think they're going to do in the race today, let's first get into qualifying and what happened in qualifying yesterday. So here are the results. Lewis Hamilton is going to start on pole position, from Valtteri Bottas in second, Max Verstappen third. Bottas, though, of course, will be starting from the back. So Max Verstappen, of course, is starting on the front row. Leclerc will then be third with Vettel fourth. Albon will then be fifth with Lando Norris in P6. Then it'll be Ricciardo and Sainz on the fourth row. And then Hülkenberg and Perez P9 and P10, again with Bottas as penalty. And then, for the rest of the field, it's Gasly, Stroll, Kvyat, Magnussen, and then Grosjean, Giovinazzi, Raikkonen, Russell, Kubica. And again, Bottas will be starting at the very back with, of course, his fresh power unit. And, yeah, the grid looking... Again, there are some battles out there that I think we can definitely get. It's just whether we will actually get them in the Grand Prix, and hopefully we do. But now, let's get into the teams and how I think they are going to do in this final Grand Prix of 2019. First off, Mercedes, who have the best car this weekend. There is no doubt about that whatsoever. And Lewis Hamilton, combined with the Mercedes package, is looking near impossible to beat. And I think Lewis Hamilton, without a doubt, is the favourite to win this Grand Prix. I don't see, realistically, unless Hamilton really has a lot more trouble in this race than we're expecting, I don't really see how Hamilton is going to come under serious challenge for this race. Unless he gets, a bad pit stop like Max Verstappen kind of had. Or not a bad pit stop, but, a bad first pit stop with Kubica coming out ahead of him. If something similar happens to Hamilton, then maybe Lewis won't have an easy ride today. But as long as everything for Lewis Hamilton goes smoothly, I don't really see how Lewis Hamilton is not going to win this race. He's so quick in that car. That car is so quick, as we know, when it comes to race day. And normally, when this team gets pole position, they tend to convert it 90% of the time. So, yeah, they are looking very, very good. Valtteri Bottas, of course, starting at the back. I think Valtteri can actually get a better result than people expect. I think P6 has to be the aim for Valtteri Bottas, but considering how bad the pace of the Ferraris are, don't be massively surprised if he can actually race them towards the end of the Grand Prix, because the Mercedes car, as we know, when it comes to race pace, is a lot faster than the Ferrari. And I think today in this Grand Prix, as we'll get onto later with Ferrari in just a moment, I think the Mercedes might end up being, say, half a lap quicker during the entire Grand Prix. So, the Ferraris probably might end up being 45, 50 seconds off the race win by the time we get to the end of the Grand Prix. And if that does turn out to be the case, then that should allow Valtteri Bottas, as long as Valtteri gets through the midfield pack quick enough, that should allow him to be somewhat in there with Vettel and Leclerc towards the end of the Grand Prix. And if we do get a safety car or a virtual safety car that Valtteri Bottas can capitalise on, then I think right there Valtteri can get after Vettel and Leclerc and even Albon for the podium. But for Valtteri, just needs to race his car absolutely into the ground today and try and get the best result possible. There's nothing to lose for Valtteri today. But for Lewis Hamilton, it's looking very good for him, and he should be the clear favourite to win this Grand Prix today. Next up, though, is Ferrari. Now, qualifying yesterday really should have been a quiet session for them because they clearly did not have the pace to be competing for pole position, and that's why they ended up so far off in the end. But still, as usual with Ferrari, there was drama. Vettel spinning in Q1, Leclerc missing the opportunity to do a final lap that, you never know, could have put him on the front row for this Grand Prix. So, again, Ferrari just drama all the time. And I think for today's Grand Prix, even if they are really slow, just have a normal, boring race. Do not go out there and have another race that in terms of pace is bad, but is also dramatically bad. Crashes, bad pit stops, bad strategy, and engine failure. Just have a normal Grand Prix. Is it too much to ask for Ferrari to have a normal race? I don't think it is, but it's Ferrari at the end of the day. Who knows what's going to happen? They could end up doing anything. They could end up taking the lead and getting into second by the end of the first lap, and then somehow winning the Grand Prix. That's just the way Ferrari are. You never know what they're going to do. They are so incredibly unpredictable. But for today's race, pace-wise, I expect Ferrari to be very bad. I expect them to be very bad. If they do not get one of their cars into P2 or P1 at the end of the first lap, then their chances of race victory is gone. And if Albon, God forbid, for Ferrari gets a great start, then I think Ferrari's podium chances are basically gone as well, because Albon should be quicker in the Red Bull. And as I said a moment ago with Ferrari, I think pace-wise, they're going to be about 7 tenths of a second, about a second a lap off the pace. Most likely, they're going to be a second a lap, I think, off the pace. And that is, of course, very embarrassing for a team like Ferrari to be 1 second a lap off the pace in the race. But we know that's going to happen most likely. I mean, in qualifying, they were, half a second, 6 tenths off pole position. And you can basically double that for the race because they're doubly as slow in the race compared to how they normally are in qualifying. So if you are a Ferrari fan, literally do not expect anything today. Do not expect anything, because this is Ferrari. We know that even if they do get into a great position, most likely things will go wrong. And the final top team, of course, is Red Bull. And with Max Verstappen starting on the front row, really today's race for Max, he's just got to give it everything he has if he's going to try and win the race. As long as he maintains at least P2 at the start, I think he can compete with Hamilton a bit. But again, going to be very, very, very difficult to compete with Lewis Hamilton, who is simply just too good so far this weekend. But again, if Verstappen pushes as hard as possible and is driving at his best, then you never know. He could end up being right there with Lewis Hamilton for the race win. But most likely, Verstappen is heading towards a P2. But the Red Bull car in this race should be really quick. I don't think it'll be as quick as the Mercedes car, but it should be comfortably faster than the Ferrari. And for Alex Albon, he has to try and get a podium today. Because again, the two Ferrari cars, very slow when it comes to race pace. And we know the Red Bull is good. And we know also Albon tends to be better in the races than he does in qualifying. So if Albon wants a podium before this season finishes, this is probably his best chance of doing it. Of course, there's only one race left, but if you look at the races since he joined Red Bull, I think this is the best opportunity he has had, honestly, at getting a podium. So hopefully he gets a good enough start, and then hopefully he can show the pace that he really should in that car. Because again, the the Red Bull race pace-wise compared to the Ferrari should be comfortably quicker. I mean, I'm talking at least half a second quicker. So hopefully Albon does show good speed. But guys, before we get into the midfield and how I think the midfield teams are going to do in this Grand Prix, let me know in the live chat right now, for the top teams, what do you expect from them? For Mercedes, do you think they are the favourites to win? And what can Valtteri Bottas do from the back of the grid? For Ferrari, what do you think or hope will happen with Ferrari? And for Red Bull, can Max Verstappen win? And can Alex Albon get onto the podium? Let me know right now in the live chat, and I'll read out your comments in just a moment. Just want to say, though, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, as we have plenty of winter content coming up on the channel, and we will be doing watch-alongs for qualifying and the races in 2020, all 22 races. I believe there are 22 races, and if they are, then we will be doing watch-alongs for qualifying and the races next season, so don't forget to subscribe for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or go to my homepage and do it there, and hit the notifications bell, and also hit the like button as well for more content like this. But for the next 2 or 3 minutes, let's quickly look at the chat to see what you guys are saying. Paul, what happened to the Red Bull pace in qualifying? I think simply what happened, is what has happened over the last few years for Red Bull. Red Bull are normally at their worst in qualifying because their engine suppliers, since the V6 hybrid era began in 2014, have not allowed them to have that extra power to go to when it comes to the final part of qualifying, which is why you end up seeing them in practice look good. Qualifying, they drop off, but in the race, they come back because, of course, you can't use max power really in the race because you'll blow the engine to bits. So that's why Red Bull and their pace dropped off, because I think it was a bit to do with the extra engine mode that Mercedes do have. And I do think aerodynamically, Mercedes do have a better car this weekend. It's not dominant. I don't think aerodynamically they're dominating this Grand Prix Mercedes, but they do have the quicker car compared to Red Bull. I think that's for sure. Right, let's find some others here if I can. Hope McLaren do well today from Skull. Yeah, I hope they do well today, and I think they will. I'll get onto my predictions later on where I think, well, you'll see. I think McLaren are going to do very well, but I think as long as they get both cars in the points, that's a good enough result for them. And I think that would kind of illustrate, again, as I said earlier in the weekend, why they have finished P4 in the Constructors. Not necessarily because they have the best car in the midfield. It's more so because they've been the most consistent team. Renault, at times this season, have had a quicker car, but have not been anywhere near as consistent. Toro Rosso have been definitely slower than McLaren, and have been consistent, but not as consistently good. And then, of course, Alpha, Racing Point, Haas, definitely not consistent at all. So I think that's really why McLaren have got P4 in the Constructors, again, because of consistency. They have had a very quick car, and they have had the best car in the midfield, but it's not just that reason as to why they finished in the position they have in the Constructors. I think most of it, or not most of it, but a lot of it has to do with, again, sheer consistency. Right, let's find a couple final comments, and we'll get on to the midfield. Harith Zach says, Ferrari aren't slow, their strategy sucks, and they can't work together as a team. They keep crashing themselves out. That's why Ferrari's always DNFing out of races. I'm sorry to say, but Ferrari are slow. They are slow. They haven't had Ferrari really that quick of a car since, what, qualifying at Suzuka? Maybe you could argue Mexico, but I don't think their car was really that quick that weekend. I mean, let's remember, they weren't on, getting the pole position pace-wise in Mexico. And in the race, they definitely were not the fastest team. So yeah, Ferrari, last few races, it's not quick enough. I mean, at least if they did have the best car, they would still be in a a good place to contend for pole and win races, even if they don't get it. But at this point, they've dropped off so much compared to how they were at Suzuka, Russia, Singapore, Monza, Spa, that even when they're having a normal weekend, which they never have, but if they do have a normal weekend, they're still too slow, which is just bad, isn't it? And let's find one final comment if I can. Saki Hybrid Ferrari sucks in Sector 3, just like Barcelona, absolutely nowhere. Well, if you have seen, guys, I think the driver mini sector comparison in qualifying of Hamilton and Leclerc, you can really see how bad the Ferrari car is in the corners. In the final sector, not even a contest. Not even a contest. It's like comparing a top car, like the Mercedes car is, to a midfield car. That's how bad the Ferrari car is in the final sector. And I think in the final 2 corners, Ferrari alone were losing half a second. Half a second in the final 2 corners. Not acceptable at all. And there is no one out there that can tell me that that is acceptable or even understandable. I'm sorry, it's not. But anyway, let's now get into the midfield. And first off, Renault, who are looking to, of course, claim officially P5 in the Constructors. And with them starting P7 and P9. And Toro Rosso starting P11 and P13, I believe. Renault should do it unless we get a mental race and Toro Rosso end up scoring an absolute bucket load of points. But yeah, Renault should get P5 in the Constructors, even though I don't necessarily think they do deserve it, because they have been quite poor this season considering the amount of money and resources that are poured into this team. The 2 drivers this weekend driving very well. Daniel Ricciardo put in a great lap yesterday to be even in contention with the 2 McLaren drivers. Hulkenberg also, I think, did well to get into the top 10 at what is most likely his final race in Formula 1. And yeah, Renault for this race, I think they'll be fine. I think they'll finish in the top 10 with at least 1 car, but it still will be a close race because, again, Toro Rosso, who are able to start on whatever tyre they want to, they'll be quick. Racing Point will be quick, starting from P10 and P12, who can also start on whatever tyres they want to. Remember though, Perez, even though he starts P10, he qualified P11, so he can start on whatever compound tyre he wants to. So it still will be close with Renault and teams like Racing Point, Toro Rosso, who have looked quite fast in this weekend's Grand Prix, but Renault should be fine for P5 in the Constructors, and that has to be the aim for them. Coming away from this Grand Prix is to secure that position. Next up, McLaren, and I think McLaren will be fine in this Grand Prix. They're not starting as high as probably they wanted to with Bottas' penalty. They would have been hoping to start the Grand Prix from P6 and P7, but it's P6 and P8. But yeah, McLaren, I think they'll be fine. I think they have the best car in the midfield this weekend. The 2 drivers are driving well. And I wouldn't be surprised if they, finish at the front of the midfield once again. And I think McLaren, pace-wise, should be comfortable in this Grand Prix. And I said, actually, after practice, when McLaren were kind of, saying, oh, not sure about our pace this weekend. But then in qualifying, they showed that they have clearly, a fast enough car. Yeah, McLaren, they'll be fine. I think they'll finish at the front of the midfield with both cars, and they should round off the season in, compared to the midfield, other midfield teams, in a dominant fashion. A team, though, that won't be doing that is Alfa Romeo next up, who are very bad this weekend. P17 and P18, they qualified yesterday, and of course they start P16 and P17 in the race. I don't really think they're in for anything today. I think maybe at best they can get 13th, but yeah, they're not in for a good race today unless they get some luck, a safety car, some retirements. This race is not going to be anything good for Alfa Romeo. It's not really a surprise. We didn't expect Alfa to go well at this Grand Prix. So it's not like we're, massively surprised. Alfa just don't have a good enough car for this track. And this Grand Prix, despite the great result from the Brazilian Grand Prix, This Grand Prix basically sums up their season ever since the Russian Grand Prix. Just nothing, just poor. So yeah, Alpha heading for a not so great result, I'm afraid, for any Alpha and Kimi Raikkonen or Antonio Giovinazzi fans out there. Next up, Haas F1. I was very surprised by Haas in qualifying. I thought Haas would be very quick and I thought they would get a car into the top 10. But of course, they did not. P15 and P16 it was in qualifying. And of course, that'll be P14 and 15 to start the Grand Prix. But yeah, not good at all. Now, as I'll get onto later with my race predictions, I actually went with quite a competitive race result for the team because I thought, and I made the predictions, by the way, on Friday morning before any running actually began. I actually thought Haas would be pretty good this weekend, but after qualifying, it's not really looking great, is it? But as I'll get onto later with my predictions that I did make before the weekend started, I did, coming into the weekend, think that Haas would be quite competitive. And it will really illustrate those predictions later on, I guess, how disappointed I am in Haas this weekend. But to be honest, that's their season. Haas have not really ever lived up to any expectations, any positive expectations, that is. They've only had, what, 3 good races this season? Melbourne, Barcelona and Hockenheim. That's really it. That's how bad the 2019 season has really been for the team. Next up, Toro Rosso, who, again, like Renault, can get P5 of the Constructors, but it's not going to happen, is it? It's not going to happen unless Renault have an absolute shocker and McLaren drop off the pace for some reason, allowing Toro Rosso to get into the points. I don't really see how Toro Rosso can get the P5 of the Constructors, even though I think they do deserve it for the season, but that's just the way things are in Formula 1. But from P11 and P13 on the grid, I think they can get a points finish. It's going to be tough, though, because, again, Racing Point, who are basically next to them on the grid, are looking very quick, and the Renault and McLaren cars also looking quick in the top 10. So it is going to be a tough Grand Prix. But if they can get a good start to the race and really give it everything, then a points finish is right there for them. They just got to go and get it, basically. And we'll see if they do. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough because qualifying, and I could tell from the team's, I guess, body language after the qualifying session, it wasn't as good qualifying as they were hoping. They thought qualifying would be pretty good for them, but it just wasn't. It just wasn't quite what they were hoping for. But yeah, in today's race, hopefully they can get something good. And this race actually is going to be their last race as Toro Rosso, because next season they'll be known as Alpha Tauri or Alpha Tauri, however you want to say it. I don't know yet, by the way, if I'm going to call them that next season or Toro Rosso. But officially, this is their last Grand Prix known as Toro Rosso. So yeah, hopefully they send the name off in style. And the final midfield team is Racing Point, who have been, I think, the surprise of the weekend so far, because Racing Point normally don't, really go massively well historically at this track, and they've been pretty good. Perez, starting P10, Stroll P12 even, looking pretty good for the team, and with them able to start on whatever tyre they want to, I think, behind the 2 Renaults and 2 McLarens, they are the biggest threat to those 2 teams. Absolutely, because they do have a good car. 2 drivers who we know when it comes to race day are experts when it comes to managing tyres, doing the starts, and just getting better race results basically compared to what they get in qualifying. So look out for Racing Point today. They might really surprise people with their speed. And I think, honestly, in this Grand Prix, they are going to be very quick. I'm not sure if it will result in a points finish, because again, Renault and McLaren are looking quick as well, but they're going to be there and thereabouts. So look out for Racing Point for sure in the Grand Prix today. And last of all, of course, is Williams. And again, no one cares about them. So, before we get into, guys, the tyre situation and what strategies we can expect for this Grand Prix, let me know right now in the live chat. For the midfield, who do you think will be good and not so good? And who do you think we need to look out for driver and team-wise in the midfield? How do you think Renault and McLaren in the top 10 will get on? How do you think Alfa and Haas, the two Ferrari customer teams, will get on? Can Toro Rosso get P5 in the Constructors today? And for Racing Point, what can they do considering that they are basically the highest starting team outside the top 10? That, you know, can start on whatever tyres they want to. Let me know in the live chat. And for the next, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes, I'll answer your comments. But I do, as I'm sure you guys can tell, I do need to have a drink because my throat is not doing particularly well. So I'll have a quick drink and then I'll come to you guys in just a moment. Right, so let's see what you guys are having to say in the chat right now. Racing Point to get double points. Paul says he wants Ricciardo to show well. I think he will. I think he is looking good this weekend. He's looking to, I guess, send his own season off on a high. And I think Daniel Ricciardo, as we'll get on to when we do me and Nibbar podcast live reviewing the season in a couple days' time, possibly tomorrow, I have to say. I think Daniel Ricciardo has had a very good season. I think he has driven very well, but the car simply hasn't been good enough, has it? Hasn't been good enough. There has been races where Daniel hasn't done particularly well, but most of the time, Daniel has been at his best. But again, the Renault car's not really been compliant with what he needs in a racing car to go well, or to go as well as he wants to. So, yeah, Daniel, I think he'll have a good race today. Well, just remembered my prediction for this race that I made a couple days ago, and I didn't have him doing too well. So, put it this way, he'll be quick. He'll be quick. Not sure about the result, though. Stella says, hoping for Toro Rosso to overtake Renault for 5th. I am also kind of hoping for that. Again, I'm not biased against Renault. I do want to see Renault eventually become a top team because it would be the best thing for Formula 1 if we had, you know, 4 different engine suppliers able to win, you know, races and finish on the podium in Formula 1. But if you look at the season, you cannot tell me Renault have had a better season than Toro Rosso. Yeah, Renault are probably going to finish ahead of them, but I don't think Renault have had a better season. I mean, Toro Rosso have had 2 podium finishes. 2 podium finishes. So, yeah, I think Toro Rosso, they do deserve it ahead of Renault. I think Renault, honestly, have had a season of ups and downs. There's been races where Renault have been very competitive, very competitive. You know, Canada, Monza, Silverstone, they were very good. Mexico, they were very good in the race. Very good in the race there. They're also very good in the race in Suzuka, even though we probably know why that was. But just, you know, in the other half of the races, not that they've been really bad, just nowhere near good enough to be finishing P4 in the Constructors at the front of the midfield pack. Right, let's find a couple final comments and then we'll get on to the tyre situation, which is kind of interesting for today's race. Tyres are very critical at this Grand Prix. Tyre wear definitely a factor, especially around those long, fast corners at the start of the lap. Right, let's find a couple here if I can. Eugene Kelly Chaza, I see the media finally giving Carlos Sainz respect as a top driver just because he doesn't have a top car, doesn't hold his talent back. I still believe he will give Max, or would give Max problems as a teammate. He definitely would. If he was Max's teammate this season, I think Red Bull would have finished P2 in the Constructors, to be honest, because Carlos is a very quick driver. Yeah, at Renault last season, he didn't do maybe as well as people were hoping, but he didn't do that bad. I mean, the first half of the season, yeah, he wasn't that good and wasn't consistent enough. But in the second half of the season, he was probably better than Nico Hülkenberg. And him and Hülkenberg in 2018, I think, were kind of 50-50-ish. But because Renault announced Ricciardo for 2019 in the middle of the season, and because Hülkenberg had the better first half of the season, Renault had no choice but to go with, Hülkenberg and Ricciardo. So I don't think Carlos Sainz, to be honest, was given a fair chance at Renault. If Ricciardo had stayed at if Ricciardo had stayed at Red Bull, I think Carlos Sainz definitely still deserved a chance at Renault, even though he probably wouldn't have got it still, because Esteban Ocon probably would have got the seat anyway if Ricciardo didn't go to Renault for 2019. But yeah, Carlos Sainz, I've always rated the guy. I've always thought he's a very good driver, but he just needs that car to really showcase his talent. And this season in the midfield, he has had the car to showcase how good he is. But I think if you give him a front-running car that can win races, Carlos Sainz can win races. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. No doubt about it. You just need to give him the car to do so. And by the way, just want to let you guys know, and I will get onto this later on after the race is finished, but, with content coming up in December, just so you guys know what's coming up. But I can say now that I will be doing a video on Carlos Sainz in December and giving him the respect and praise that he desperately does deserve. Right, let's find one final comment and then get into the tyres. Spider Monkey Chaz, which tyre you prefer to start on for this race? If I was deciding, if it was me deciding, I would actually, if I'm starting inside the top 10, I would go on the hard compound, because I think the tyre wear at the start will be quite critical for the people on the soft compound. And as the temperature goes down, because of course it goes from day to night, then you'll want to go on to the softer compounds later on, because the softer compounds do work better later on in this type of race once the temperature goes down, because of course the softer compound tyres give you a better tyre temperature earlier on. So I would, if I'm, say, Toro Rosso, I would probably put at least one driver on the hard compound and then the other driver on the medium, just to, make sure that one strategy works. But the hard tyre is definitely a tyre that I would start on for the Grand Prix, and then probably switch to the medium for the final, 20 laps. So go, 35 laps into the race on the hard, and then do a, final 20 lap stint on the medium. Or if the soft tyre is actually holding up well, then you could go hard to soft in this Grand Prix. But anyway, talking of strategy, here we go. So these are the 4 quickest strategies for this race that Ferrari, of course, will completely ignore. So the quickest is a one-stopper, and that is starting on the soft compound tyre. By the way, this is according to Pirelli. This is not according to me. This is according to Pirelli. The quickest is starting on the soft compound, going between 7 and 14 laps, and then going on to the hard compound till the end of the Grand Prix. And then almost equivalent, which means it's probably slower by 2-3 tenths of a second, is starting on the medium and going to the hard compound tyre. So you can see the hard compound tyre is going to be a tyre that's going to be used a lot in this Grand Prix. I think every team will use it in this Grand Prix at some point. The second quickest is a 2-stopper, which is soft, and then hard. I don't think you'll see anyone in the top 10, though, doing that. Maybe outside the top 10, we get a soft tyre starter. Maybe they'll do that. But, yeah, I don't think that's really possible. And then the slowest, for sure, is starting on the soft, going about 20 laps, and then putting on the medium tyres to go to the end. What I would do, again, if I had 2 cars starting outside the top 10, I would have one on the hard and one on the medium to start with, and then obviously one would go to the hard and one would go to the medium for their second and final stint of the Grand Prix. At up front with the top runners, I think Hamilton, Verstappen, Albon, Leclerc, who are starting on mediums, and Bottas, who's starting at the back but is a top runner, what they will do is the almost equivalent strategy. They'll go on the medium, of course, that they're starting on, and they'll run, I think, a bit longer than 10 to 18 laps. I think they'll probably go about 22, 23 laps on the medium, and then they'll go onto the hard compound for the end of the Grand Prix. And then for Sebastian Vettel, see, this is the problem for Vettel, is he has to have an amazing start or else his race is done. Because his soft compound tyre he's starting on is only going to be good for, what, 2 laps really? 3 laps in the Grand Prix? So, yeah, for Sebastian Vettel, the only thing he can do strategically in this race is make the soft tyre last long enough to clear the midfield and then go onto the hard compound to finish the Grand Prix. But it's going to be tough for Sebastian Vettel, and I think in this Grand Prix, he will most likely, if Ferrari are smart, they'll pit Sebastian Vettel around lap 15, I reckon, on the soft compound, and then go to the hard to finish the Grand Prix. But that will basically ensure him pitting that early compared to Verstappen, Hamilton, Leclerc. That will kind of ensure that he's not going to have a good race today. But yeah, not looking good strategically for him or Ferrari. But, they made the decision to do that. It was their fault. But yeah, I think definitely the harder compound tyre you're on, the better you're going to be doing. It's one of those races where the hardest compound is going to be the compound you want to get onto as soon as possible. Once you've got, enough of a window to drop back into and not get held up in traffic or anything like that. So, yeah, the hard compound is going to be used basically by every team in this Grand Prix. But now, I think it's time we got on to my race predictions for the 2019 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the final race of the 2019 season. Now, again, I have to clarify, I made these predictions on Friday morning. So, of course, I had no knowledge of what the pace was this weekend, of what the pace was, in qualifying. I didn't know, of course. So, these may seem a bit weird, but I think most of the order, is understandable. And, you can see why I've gone for certain results. So, let me now, with 22 minutes to go in this stream until the race, let's now get into them if I can. And here you go. So, I believe Lewis Hamilton will win the Grand Prix. Max Verstappen will finish in second, and Alex Albon will finish in third. The reason I go for that podium is because Lewis Hamilton in that car, and with him being so quick, is simply too good. I think the driver-car combination, Hamilton in that Mercedes, is too good. That's why he'll win the Grand Prix. Max Verstappen will finish in second. And the reason that'll be is because he will drive the wheels off his car and be not too far away from Lewis Hamilton, but just not close enough to really contend for the race victory, but will be clearly ahead of teammate Albon, who I do think will finish in third because his car should be comfortably quicker than Vettel and Leclerc's cars, the Ferrari cars, of course. So I think Albon, as long as he gets a good start and he does show the pace that he really should in this Grand Prix, he should be getting a podium today. And I don't think he really has that much of an excuse today to not at least be racing the Ferraris for position. And then I've gone for Vettel fourth, Leclerc fifth. I think Vettel, definitely at the start, is going to be very good on that soft compound, so watch out for him at the start. But yeah, Ferrari, they're going to be miles off winning this Grand Prix. And then I've gone for the safe prediction with Valtteri Bottas in sixth place because, that's the only position you can really predict him to be in because we don't know, the pace yet of the race. We don't know how quick the Ferrari and Mercedes cars are compared to one another. So we'll have to see in the Grand Prix. But most likely, if Hamilton, Verstappen, Albon, Vettel, Leclerc do finish the Grand Prix, then, they should, with Valtteri Bottas Mercedes, be getting that car into sixth place. And then at the front of the midfield, I've gone Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris. Again, I think McLaren will be very quick, and I think they will be dominating the midfield battle. Nico Hulkenberg, I've gone with in ninth because I think Hulkenberg is going to have a very good final race of what is going to be surely his last race in Formula One. And then, very surprising, yes, I know, I've gone Romain Grosjean in P10, but again, because I made these on Friday morning, I thought Haas would be pretty quick, and what I thought was going to happen for Haas is that they'd have a good qualifying, and that because it's hard to overtake here, that despite their tyre trouble, they would actually be able to just about get a points finish. But with them starting P14 and P15, it's not looking too great, is it? And then I went with Magnussen in P11, Gasly P12, Raikkonen 13th, Ricciardo 14th. The reason I went Ricciardo 14th is because I just thought he wouldn't have that good of a race today. Not because of his, of his own driving, but just something would happen in, an accident, bad luck, something would happen to Danny Rick. And then I went for Giovinazzi 15th. I went Perez and Stroll 16th and 17th. The reason I went for that, again, making these a couple days ago, is because I didn't think Racing Point would actually be that good this weekend. And then, of course, Russell and Kubica at the back. And the only retirement I have gone for, let me clear my throat there, is Daniel Kvyat in the Toro Rosso. And I don't think, by the way, it will be a crash. Let's not wish that on him. I think it will be a reliability issue. I think Toro Rosso are going to have a disappointing end to the season, even though it's been a very good 2019 Formula One season. But I think now it's time we bring Nib on to get his predictions and his thoughts as to what's going to happen in this Grand Prix. So Nib, how you doing, mate? And yeah, what are your predictions then for the race?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks, mate, and I hope everyone else in chat is doing well. But before we get on to my predictions, Charles Leclerc has been referred to the stewards by FIA technical delegate Joe Bauer for a significant difference has been discovered between the quantity of fuel in his car and amount that the team declared. So they're in a little bit of trouble for that, and remains to be seen what will come of that. But I'll get on to my predictions now. I think that's going to play pretty similar, except for Ferrari falling back through the field, if I'm going to be quite honest with you. So for the win, I'm going to go Lewis Hamilton. Surprise, surprise. Mercedes look very, very good around here. Second, I'm going to go for Max Verstappen. I think he could take it to Hamilton, but it's super hard to overtake here, especially through that final sector if you're behind another car. And then I'm going to go for Alexander Albon in third place because I think they're going to come through the field. I think he's going to get past the Ferraris quite comfortably because they're just going to be a lot quicker in the race than the Ferrari. So that's what my podium's going to be.
Well, I didn't actually know that was Charles Leclerc, and that is just another thing to add, isn't it, to Ferrari's terrible season? Just another thing to add. And I literally said coming into the weekend with Ferrari, even if you're slow, just have a normal, undramatic, boring weekend. And they've had what? Missing the flag, spin with Vettel, now this. Just never ends, does it? Never ends with Ferrari. But anyway, with just over 15 minutes to go, guys, until the final race of 2019. Let me know, guys, right now in the live chat, what are your predictions for this race? Who is, in your opinion, winning the Grand Prix, finishing as second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth? If you want to do the rest of the field, then go ahead and do so. But at least give me what you think the podium will be for this Grand Prix. Both me and Nib have gone for Hamilton, Verstappen, and Albon. So let us know in the chat, who are you going to go for? But before I get onto that, I just want to ask Nib, with the midfield, do you expect certain teams and drivers to, what teams or drivers do you expect to be very good in this race? Are you looking out for certain teams to surprise or, look good?
Nah, not really. If I'm going to be honest, it'd be hilarious if Kvyat could do another impersonation of Grosjean, because that is the best impersonation I've ever seen in my life. I know. I think it's going to be usually about the McLarens and Danny Rick, and of course Hulkenberg and what is going to be his last F1 race, or at least for next year. Of course, he won't be on the grid next year. Who knows? He might come back, because of course he has come back before. But yeah, the midfield is the midfield. It's obviously where most of the racing is going to happen. I don't expect too much racing at the front, but hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully my pessimism is proven wrong, and we have an exciting, exciting Grand Prix.
Yeah, hopefully we do. And hopefully with the midfield, if there is some racing, they actually show it for once. But let's now get on to some final pictures before we get the race underway. And let's get to the chat to see what you guys think will happen on the first one. And then we'll get reading them out. Right, the first one that I have found is Mr. Random Guy, who says Verstappen to win from Hamilton, Albon, Vettel, Ricciardo, Sainz, Norris, Gasly, Perez, Hulkenberg, Stroll, Kvyat, Kimi, Giovinazzi, Russell, Kubica, and his retirements are Grosjean, Leclerc, and Bottas. By the way, with Leclerc and that whole investigation, what will probably happen if he does, get penalised is that he'll probably do the race and then he'll just get disqualified after. You want to say something?
Yeah, Michael Massey's confirmed that they'll investigate it after the race, and you'd expect him to be disqualified.
Yeah.
Those technical regulations are black and white, so...
Yeah, so Leclerc basically racing for nothing then. So you can expect him to go for it in this Grand Prix. Right, let's find some others here if I can. Nikita says Max Albon. Paul says Lewis, Bottas, Verstappen. That's a bit surprising. You're going for Valtteri to finish in second. That car's not that quick. I mean, maybe if it was 2014, Mercedes would get a 1-2 still. One of their cars at the back, but not sure about that today. Hornblower says Verstappen, Hamilton, Leclerc. Deep Sea Gaming says Hamilton, Verstappen, Sainz. That's a bit of a surprise. Would be nice to see, though, him actually on the podium this time. Right, let me find a few others. Just scroll past one of them. From Stella, who says Hamilton, Max, Vettel, Bottas, Leclerc, Albon, Sainz, Gasly, Lando. Says Nando, means Lando. And then Kvyat. Spider Monkey says Hamilton, Albon, Verstappen, Leclerc, Vettel, Bottas, Sainz, Ricciardo, Perez, Hulkenberg, Stroll, Gasly, and Norris. Seki Hybrid says Mercedes really good here. I can see Bottas getting P3 and podium Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas. Will F1 says Hamilton, Verstappen, Albon, Vettel, Bottas, Norris, Sainz, Ricciardo, Perez, Gasly, and Leclerc to get disqualified from P5 in after the Grand Prix. Find some others here if I can. If there's any others. Astro Stevo, great to see you, mate. I know finally you can make this race because the last 3 races are just horrible in terms of time for Australians. I know from Nib. It's terrible, isn't it? The timing, and Astro Stevo has been unable to make any of the races. But yeah, he says Hamilton, Bottas, Albon. Harith Zach says Verstappen, Hamilton, Albon, Verstappen. Hold on a minute. He said Verstappen. I mean Vettel in 4th. Verstappen, Hamilton, Albon, Vettel, Bottas, Norris, Hulkenberg, Sainz, Raikkonen, Grosjean. Gina says Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen. Let's see if there's any other comments here. Watch Ferrari finish P1 with Leclerc and then get disqualified. Knowing them, yes, that will happen. He'll win the race and then get disqualified. Right, let's see if there's any others I've missed. Paul says Ferrari and Red Bulls have trouble. Bottas slip through. That's how Bottas, in his opinion, will get the podium. And move on to this picture of a Ferrari leaving the garage. And with 10 minutes to go, might as well, as there's people asking, just clarify for the final time this season, thankfully.
Like we need to clarify.
What we do on Watchalong. So, of course, we do not show live footage because that'll be breaking copyright laws. So what we do is I will have a slideshow of pictures playing. There'll be one every... Let me just check a minute. My slideshow. There'll be one every 4 minutes during the Grand Prix. And there's about, 20 pictures, I think, in the slideshow. So, yeah, one every 4 minutes for the Grand Prix. So So that'll keep you guys entertained on that side. There'll be a running order running along the bottom of the screen that will show the live order that I will update as many times as I can. And if we do get a usual Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, then it'll be quite easy for me to update it. And also, there is a lap counter, but it'll be on the running order. So if you want to see what lap it is, if we don't say it, even though we will be saying it plenty of times, it'll be on the running order, and I'll make sure to update it every time. Of course, there is a new lap. But if you can't, quite see it on the bottom of the screen, then I'll just read it out anyway, and we'll read it out as the race goes on. And me and Nib will basically provide a radio-style commentary of what is going on. So if you cannot watch this watch-along all the race, but you can listen, if you're out and about or at work or whatever, then, if you listen along, we'll keep you absolutely up to date with what is going on in this Grand Prix that gets underway. Well, the race doesn't get underway in 9 minutes, but the formation lap does in about 9 minutes' time. Right, so let's find some final comments if I can. Harith, Zach, what's the point of running the race if he's going to get disqualified anyway? Well, they don't know that for sure. I mean, most likely he will, but they don't know for sure if he will, so they got to do it anyway. And what's the point in them not racing, even if they're going to get disqualified? The only other time I can remember something like this happening is when Jacques Villeneuve at Suzuka, I think in 97, was caught speeding under yellow flags in qualifying and got pole, and then raced in the race under protest, finished in, I think, P5, and then still got disqualified. So that's the only other time I can remember something like this happening. So that's probably what's going to happen. He'll be racing basically under protest in this Grand Prix, and then when the race finishes, he'll get disqualified, and that'll be it for his season. Find some others here if I can. Sorry, Chazza. Vettel's going to get P4. Yeah. Well, with Leclerc out of the race, basically, most likely. I mean, if Ferrari still get beat by Valtteri Bottas, I think that would just cap it off, wouldn't it? How bad of a season, this has been. Seki Hybrid looks like Ferrari have had their worst weekend reserved for the final weekend. This hasn't been the worst weekend so far. It has been the worst that I've seen. They've had worse weekends, I think, but this is pretty bad. Pretty bad for Ferrari. As Guy F1, they're just completing their grid walk. Vettel and Leclerc may collide. Well, if Vettel is as competitive at the start as I think he will be, then, on the soft tyre, then it could happen again. But if Ferrari want to get a good result today, it's pretty simple. They just got to go for it at the start, because after that, they're not going to be anywhere in terms of speed. So if they're going to finish any higher than where they're starting, they've just got to go for it and use all of the power they have on the first lap up until basically the end of the second DRS straight. And if they do that, then maybe they can get P2 or even P1, because we know that in the straight line, they are very, very good. And then we move on to this final picture. Very good picture of a Red Bull yesterday. And let's find some final comments here if I can. You guys, about what's going to happen in this Grand Prix. Hopefully both Renaults in the points. Pace-wise, it should be the case, but you never know with Renault. Could end up being an absolute disaster, like plenty of races this season. Paul, Mercedes has shown excellent strategy for this season. Not all the time. Not all the time. I mean, if you look at Singapore, they were very poor there. Brazil, they didn't get it right with pitting Hamilton for the third time under the final safety car. That was not the right decision. They haven't always got it right, but they're definitely a lot better than Ferrari. But I'd say the best strategy team right now in Formula One is probably Red Bull. They've just been flawless this season. I can't really think of a race this season where they've got it dramatically wrong. Mercedes have a couple times. Ferrari do every single time they enter a session. So yeah, I think Red Bull, you have to say, they're probably the best team strategically. Mr. Labman says Max, Lewis, Bottas for his prediction. Marco says or asks, how do you think Danny would perform if he didn't leave Red Bull? That is an interesting one, because I think Daniel Ricciardo would have won a Grand Prix this season if he was in the Red Bull, because the Red Bull is basically as quick, if not slightly quicker, in the pecking order compared to last season. And of course, last season he won 2 races. I think if Ricciardo was in the team, Red Bull would have P2 in the constructors, and I think, yeah, Ricciardo, he'd probably have a couple race victories. I mean, Nib, if he was in the Red Bull or in a car that is as quick as a Red Bull, considering how he's done this season, do you think he would have had a couple race victories this season?
Yeah, of course. I don't. Oh God. Yeah, of course. He's a brilliant driver, and of course he would have won some Grand Prix this year.
Yeah, definitely. I think Canada would have been one where he probably would have been. Well, actually, no, because the Red Bull car wasn't that great. I'm trying to think of a race where.
Well, they started getting good from Austria.
Yeah.
Which he's rubbish at.
I'm trying to think of a race where he was good and also the car was good. Maybe Mexico, possibly, because Red Bull were very quick there, and he was very good in the race. So yeah, maybe Mexico. He probably would have won there with Verstappen.
Got pole in Mexico the year before.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Mexico's probably won. And then maybe, I don't know, maybe Hungary as well, because he's obviously won there before, and he could have been up there as well. But yeah. Right, let's find a couple final comments here before we get into the race, as the F1 intro has already played, and we're just under 3 minutes away from the formation lap getting underway. Astro Steve, I wish Danny Rick was in a Ferrari or Mercedes. He'd probably be champion or runner-up already, if so. I'm not sure, but he would definitely be winning races and be on the podium basically every Grand Prix, because that's how good he is. Find a couple others here if I can. Daniel Crawford saying, worst decision of Red Bull in the last few years was to let Ricciardo go. Well, Daniel decided to leave. You can't keep a guy at your team who doesn't want to be there. Even if he is the best driver in the world, you cannot keep a guy, again, in your team who doesn't want to be there. You've got to have people in your team who actually want to, work for that company or whatever. You can't just have people there who are kind of don't really, or, are not really sure if they want to be there, or absolutely not wanting to be at that particular team or in that situation anymore. So there was nothing Red Bull could do. And once Ricciardo, made it clear he wanted to leave, they had to, let him go. Let me just find a couple final comments here. If I can. Car Noob, I really want Hulk to get a podium. He won't get a podium. We know that. And one final one, if I can, before the formation lap gets underway in just a moment. Deep Sea Gaming says, I think Danny Rick was just opening himself up for a better seat in 2021. Well, given the current driver market going into 2021, I think Daniel is looking good to get back into a car that is able to win races, not necessarily get into a team that is a great team that can win the world championship. But I think Daniel will win a race again before his career's over. I have no doubt about that, because I think he will get back into a team, that is fast enough to be at that part of the grid. But those are the comments. And now it is time for the formation lap for the final Grand Prix of 2019. As they're about to get underway, so I'm going to get rid of that timer and get everything ready. So formation lap hasn't officially started, but it is about to. So there you go. Formation lap has started, and let me just adjust that. a moment. And I will get up the running order now. So there you go. That is the starting grid. It's Hamilton on pole, from Verstappen second. By the way, outside the top 10, from Perez down, it's medium, medium, medium. Then I think it's hard, soft, and then the rest are medium, I think, as the formation lap now underway. But yeah, the grid is Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc, Vettel, Albon, Norris, Ricciardo, Sainz, Hülkenberg, Perez, Gasly, and Stroll. Kvyat, Magnussen, Grosjean, Giovinazzi, Raikkonen, Russell, Kubica, and then Bottas at the back of the grid as the formation lap is now underway, as the drivers now head down towards the end of Sector 1. And they're going pretty quick for this formation lap, as Max Verstappen has a cheeky little dive down on Hamilton. But yeah, as it says on the TV, the medium tyre, if anyone's starting on that, that's definitely going to go quite a bit longer, I think, than the soft compound tyre in this Grand Prix. The only soft compound tyre runner out of the top teams is Sebastian Vettel, so watch out for him at the start of the Grand Prix, which will be getting underway in about 45 seconds to a minute's time, as the front of the field now comes through to the end of the second sector, as they're just warming up their tyres. And the crowd prepares for, at the track, the final race. As now Hamilton enters that final sector. It's a shame they're not showing the tyre or the graphic again with everyone starting on, or with, who is starting on what tyres, because I didn't get quite a good enough look at it. But I think that Perez, Gasly, and Stroll are on medium tyres, and I think Daniel Kvyat is on the hard compound. I'm not sure though. We'll have to see later on, of course, as now Lewis Hamilton enters the final part of the track. And he has won here, Lewis Hamilton, plenty of times before. He is the most successful driver at this track in what is the most successful team ever at this track. So if he doesn't win today, it's going to take bad luck or a monumental effort from someone else or some other team for him not to win this Grand Prix, as Lewis Hamilton now rounds the final corner and is now soon enough about to get lined up on the starting grid. As they now come onto the starting grid, Hamilton warms up his tyres. And let me just get the text up there ready. So the race has not officially started, but it will be in the next half minute. So there you go. And let me get the slideshow up as well quickly, guys. And there you go. Should be, again, one picture every 4 minutes. As now most of the cars lining up on the grid for this final Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And now here comes Valtteri Bottas, the lineup on the grid. And it is now time to get the final race of this season underway. And here we go. Here come the lights. It's 3, it's 4, it's 5 lights for the final race. And lights out, and away we go. And Lewis Hamilton gets a very good start. Max Verstappen covering off Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. And they've got away just fine. And the top 5 have got away, I think, in order. As Sebastian Vettel...
contact further back.
Yeah, I thought I just saw someone fly off in the background. As Albon is now going to have a look at Sebastian Vettel, I think, in the Ferrari. No, he's not at the moment. The two Renaults looking close, as the Haas has made a great start. Who is it? I think it's Kevin Magnussen. Look at that. Magnussen up to about 8th or 9th place, I think. And yeah, there's a couple cars off in the background. And McLaren there, very close. I think Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris, very close. As Charles Leclerc going for the move on Max Verstappen, done the first straight. And he gets the move done. So Leclerc up to 2nd place. And he had to get that done if he wants to get a great result. Giovinazzi trying to go down the inside of a Racing Point. Not going to work. Hopefully no contact in the background. I think that's Valtteri Bottas, who's made a very good start. He's already passed about 5 cars halfway through the first lap. And here comes Sebastian Vettel round the outside of Verstappen. Verstappen goes back up the inside. And Albon is desperately trying to hold off the Red Bulls, and Verstappen trying to hold off Vettel so desperately. Oh, the McLarens almost making contact, and a Renault diving down the inside. And doesn't make it, thankfully, for McLaren, as Verstappen moving all over the place to keep Vettel behind, and he just about has. The Max is in third place. That has allowed Charles Leclerc to move away, and that basically guarantees Hamilton a comfortable lead for the moment as they now come round the final corner and begin lap number 2 out of 55. So it's Hamilton leading from Charles Leclerc in second place. Good start for them. Max Verstappen has dropped down to third place, but I'm sure now he'll go marching after Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari and will be very, very quick. And then, yeah, Vettel fourth, and then it's Albon fifth. Norris is in P6. As a Toro Rosso comes in there, Pierre Gasly in the Toro Rosso. No front wing on the Toro Rosso. I didn't quite see what happened with Gasly, but...
It was at turn 1. I'm pretty sure he had contact with Racing Points at turn 1.
Here we go.
We'll see here.
And, yeah. Oh, there was nothing he could do about that.
Yeah, because he got hit from behind and then hit into the other Racing Point. That's really unfortunate. As Hulkenberg's going down the inside there, and Giovinazzi as well. Hulkenberg up past Magnussen into P9.
Absolutely.
Nice move, as they're still trying to get the new front wing on the car of Pierre Gasly.
And they are just about doing so. And yeah, Hulkenberg has got back past Kevin Magnussen, who made a great start around the outside of Hulkenberg at turn 4, I believe. Yeah, Hulkenberg back up to 9th. And then Magnussen, for the moment, completes that top 10. As Lewis Hamilton about to start lap number 3 in a moment. He's already 1.7 seconds clear of Charles Leclerc after 2 laps. That just shows you how quick he is in that car as we now begin lap number 3.
That was the gap after the first lap.
And he does a new fastest lap, a 1:42.7. Very quick is Lewis Hamilton, and Max Verstappen is about 2 seconds behind Charles Leclerc at the moment. But again, he should be closing that gap down soon enough. And then, yeah,
I think Red Bull might be struggling to fire up their medium compound tyres quite a little bit at the moment. I think they're struggling with that.
Yeah, possibly. And yeah, Vettel is still within about a second, I think, just about of Max Verstappen, so that could be the case. But completing the rest of the field, it is Perez P11, Giovinazzi P12, and then I may as well put Bottas in 13th because he's about to pass Lance Stroll down the first DRS straight, as Vettel closing in again on Max Verstappen at the end of a DRS straight there. And Perez trying to go down the inside of Magnussen, not going to work. Bottas doesn't pass Lance Stroll, but he will in a moment, so I might as well just leave Bottas in 13th because it will happen. This move is going to happen. And here's a replay of the start. I'll let you take us through this, Nib.
Yep, so here we see Lewis Hamilton getting a pretty solid start, but Charles Leclerc actually got a really good initial launch, but then Verstappen had a much better second phase. Nothing too much to go through from the start. Ricciardo getting past Sainz there. Sainz just about holding his line. Sorry, Sainz got past Ricciardo. Don't know what I'm talking about. No. Ricciardo did get ahead, but then Sainz got back past. But here we go. Gasly now on board around the outside. He gets hit from the rear and then just is pushed into Perez. I think that was in front. Unfortunate for Gasly, nothing he could do whatsoever. And you can see he's understeering like an absolute bus. And I assume that is his girlfriend, who is absolutely devastated. And here we go. We're going to see on board with Lance Stroll now what exactly happened here at turn 1. You go back to see he hits the rear of Gasly just there. And then that turns his car into Perez. Perez somehow doesn't have a puncture. And quite sadly for Pierre Gasly, his whole front wing is gone. And look at the start Bottas had. He is on the compound softer tyres than both the Williams, and both up the inside the Williams at turn 1. As you can see, there was actually a little bit more contact there with Alfa Romeo there, who goes clean around the outside of Grosjean, does he? Now we're not going to see any more of it, but Vettel still looking pretty close to DRS currently disabled due to a technical issue.
Well, actually, we saw this in Macau last week. DRS was disabled, I think, due to a technical issue. But I've never seen that in Formula One. DRS disabled because of a technical issue. So it's back now to what, 2010 for for these positions. Now they got to do them properly without DRS. Let's see how these drivers get on then. As Hamilton,
so there'll be no overtaking.
Basically, as Hamilton on lap 4 out of 55 is about 2.5 seconds clear of Charles Leclerc. But I'll put Stroll back ahead of Bottas in just a moment. Just want to complete the rest of the field. So Raikkonen is in 15th. Kvyat is in 16th place, which is quite a bad start. He started 13th. And then it is Romain Grosjean. One good start as well. Antonio Giovinazzi from P16 to P12. Very good start for him, as we're now on lap 5 out of 55. There you go. And I'll just put Stroll back at a Bottas. And now this makes Valtteri Bottas's comeback very hard. Because again, it is very hard to overtake here. Even with DRS. Without it, it's nigh on impossible. Saying that, he's about to pass Lance Stroll down the inside. And there you go. As soon as I update Stroll back in 13th, he passes him for 13th place. So Valtteri Bottas into 13th. And just going to do the 18th and 19th place positions as Kubica has got ahead of George Russell. So Kubica 18th. And Lance Stroll is coming back at Valtteri Bottas round the outside into the first big chicane. And I don't think he'll be going back for a move because that Mercedes is clearly much faster. But here comes Sergio Perez on Kevin Magnussen. But the Haas is too quick in a straight line because of the Ferrari engine. That's why he cannot overtake. Well, with DRS not in use, get ready for 50 laps of trains, basically. Because Kevin Magnussen, if DRS was enabled, Magnussen would be out of the points by now. Because Perez is clearly quicker. But because there's no DRS, what can Sergio Perez do? Nothing is the answer. And we are now on lap 6 out of 55. And the closest gaps out there is Bottas now on Giovinazzi, but also Ricciardo is within a second of Carlos Sainz. Not that it matters at the moment. And Hülkenberg is about a second behind Daniel Ricciardo as Lance Stroll has pitted. And I think that's for a new front wing because he did hit Pierre Gasly at that first corner. So that promotes Kimi Raikkonen up to 14th. Again, good start for Alfa Romeo. So Raikkonen up to 14th. Bottas already all over the back of Antonio Giovinazzi, who was the man outside the top 10 starting on the soft compound tyre. And can Valtteri now pass Antonio down towards the chicane? He should be able to. Antonio kind of defends his position, but Valtteri overtakes him. So Valtteri Bottas is up to P12 now, and now hunts after Perez. But if Perez can't get past Kevin Magnussen, then I don't see how Bottas is going to do that either. As Perez, will he go for it down the inside? He does, and he gets a move done. Good move by Sergio Perez. Had to make it if he's going to make any progress in this Grand Prix. So, Sergio Perez up to 10th. By the way, Lewis Hamilton is now on lap 7 and is leading by 4 seconds. So, yeah, very, very quick. As we've seen the replay there, Bottas passing Antonio Giovinazzi. And, yeah, Perez is now P10. And Magnussen is now down to P11, and Magnussen should continuously drop down through the field now because he is very slow, as expected, in that car, despite getting a really good start to the Grand Prix. Bottas up to 12th, Giovinazzi 13th, Raikkonen 14th, and then you've got Kvyat now up to 15th place with Grosjean in 16th. The two Williams is 17th and 18th. And then Stroll, Gasly at the back. But yeah, everything at the moment is really stabilised, and the only action we're really getting is Valtteri Bottas coming through the field. As Bottas down the slipstream with Kevin Magnussen down to the first chicane at the end of the first DRS straight. Will he go for the move? No, nowhere near close enough. And that's because, again, no DRS at the moment. But, yeah.
He's got a good exit here. He'll probably get past here. He's close enough. He's in the slipstream. Magnussen probably isn't going to defend. He doesn't. He's going to let Bottas go up the inside. There's a very comfortable move for Valtteri Bottas up into P11 now. And soon we'd expect him on the back of Sergio Perez for P10.
Absolutely. And yeah, P11. But just making sure the order is correct. We're now on lap 8 out of 55. Hamilton, I don't know what his lead is, but it's probably 4.5 seconds, something like that at the moment. But yeah, Kubica is still ahead of teammate Russell. And then, yes, Stroll and Gasly are at the back after their contact at the first corner on the first lap. And then Bottas into P11. And now Valtteri catches Perez. He's about 1.5 seconds behind Perez. And yet Hamilton on lap 8 is 4.4 seconds clear of Charles Leclerc. Max Verstappen is unable to catch Leclerc at the moment. The gap is stabilising basically at 2 seconds. So there's nothing really at the moment Max Verstappen can do. And I'm sure he's pushing as hard as he can given the tyre life he has. As Sebastian Vettel is dropping off a bit, but is still hanging in there, sort of, for the moment. As they now come into the top drivers into the final sector. And it's going to be a shame if DRS is not in use for this race. Because once Valtteri Bottas gets through the midfield, I'm afraid I don't think we'll get any more overtaking after that. As Lewis Hamilton now enters the final sector of the track. And look at that. He's already pulled out 0.5 seconds in a few corners in the final sector. And now comes to the line. Start lap 9 out of 55. And he is 5.1 seconds clear. So yeah, Hamilton is gaining about 0.5 seconds on Leclerc in the final sector. And Lewis, yeah, is about 0.5 seconds a lap quicker than Leclerc so far in this Grand Prix. About 1 second a lap quicker than Sebastian Vettel, whose tyres are now clearly dropping off. As Lando Norris comes into the pits on lap 9. That's very early on the soft tyre. Comes into the pits. Hopefully no pit stop problems. And he goes on to the hard compound tyre. Also Antonio Giovinazzi, who also started on that tyre in the pits. The Valtteri Bottas now up to P10 in the Mercedes. So Carlos Sainz up to 6th. I'm expecting then Sainz and Ricciardo and Hülkenberg to be in the pits soon to cover off what Norris has done. As there is Daniel Ricciardo, who is within 1 second of Carlos Sainz. But again, no DRS in use at the moment because of a technical problem. So he can't do anything about it, even though he'd probably be all over the back of him by now if there was DRS. And Valtteri, I think he's going to find it quite tough without DRS to pass Sergio Perez, because Perez is very good out of slow corners to pull away in the traction zone. So it's going to be tough for Bottas to pass Perez for these next couple laps. As they now come into the final sector. And Norris has rejoined in between the two Williamses, which is not good, because that will now hold him up for a few corners, giving the other drivers he's racing against a chance. So yeah, Hülkenberg currently in 8th place. We're now on lap 10 out of 55. As Bottas, yeah, closely following, he is Sergio Perez, but nothing he can do about Perez for the moment. And I don't really know what to say, because if DRS doesn't come back, I don't think we're in for a good race here. Do you think, Nib?
I mean, obviously Ross Brawn has planned this. He's caused the technical fault, so this is why we're having no DRS. We're testing for the future, well, for hopefully the future. So we're just seeing how it's going. We're spicing it up by making it not spicy at all. And yeah, but saying that, we're going to have Bottas probably past Perez here. Probably not down the first straight here, the big long first straight. Probably on the second straight as you're gaining the braking zone here. So we're running on this nose cam with Valtteri Bottas. And now through the chicane, I'm sure he'll have a much better exit than Perez. But we can't. No, I don't think he will be able to pass Perez here. Actually, Perez has actually got quite a good exit. Yeah, no, he definitely won't be able to. I lied. I'm sorry. False information was given. He's not gotten past Perez quite yet. But I noticed that Ricciardo has been in Sainz's DRS window pretty much the whole entire first stint, but he just can't get close enough with no DRS to go for an overtake. As Norris had just gotten past Kubica for P15. There's Kubica's ahead of Russell. That's quite interesting to see there.
It is. But I will say that without DRS, it does make drives through the field from top teams more impressive. So if Valtteri can, I mean, he will finish in the front of the midfield runners eventually, but it does make it more impressive if you do come from 20th to 6th place if you don't have DRS. Because if you have DRS, it is pretty simple if you are in a Ferrari, a Mercedes, or a Red Bull. As, what's this? Charles Leclerc? Slight damage, is it? Or just a slow motion? Just a slow motion.
Slow-mo.
Yeah. And Max Verstappen is about 2.5 seconds behind Charles Leclerc on now lap 11 out of 55, and Leclerc about 5.5 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. And Ferrari look as though they're getting ready for a pit stop in a moment. It should be for Sebastian Vettel because he is on the softer compound, but maybe they'll go for a pit stop with Charles Leclerc. I think they do have a pit stop gap now to the midfield, so who knows who it's for if they are going for a pit stop. But Norris... go on.
Leclerc was reporting vibrations. That's probably why they showed the slow-mo.
Right. And just seeing now on the TV, Sebastian Vettel going through the final corner, where he's spun in Q1. And he is looking okay, Vettel. He's not doing as bad as I thought he would, but still, pace-wise, it's not too good at the moment. But anyway, yeah, Norris up to 15th. Kubica down to 16th. Then Russell in 17th places. Daniel Ricciardo comes in to undercut Carlos Sainz. They now go onto the hard compound tyre. Great pit stop. And as long as he doesn't have too bad a traffic, he should be able to perform the undercut on Carlos Sainz, because the undercut is very powerful at this track as he comes through the very unusual pit exit. And there you go. Slight gap ahead there of Kubica, and he gets out about 2 seconds behind Lando Norris. So yeah, Ricciardo looking good for the undercut. And here comes Valtteri Bottas. And down the inside of Perez. At the chicane he goes. And Valtteri Bottas is now up to 8th place because of Ricciardo's pit stop. So, Valtteri making gains slowly but surely through the field. That's now Hülkenberg up to P7. And then, yeah, Bottas up to P8. Carlos Sainz, though, should be pitting in a moment. And here comes Ferrari for a pit stop. And it is for Charles Leclerc, I believe. And here he comes into the box. And that's an okay enough pit stop. 2.6 seconds. That's definitely okay. And here comes Sebastian Vettel double stacking at Ferrari. And do they get it right? No, of course they don't, because it's Ferrari, and they've blown about 5 seconds. They can't do anything right, can they? As now Carlos Sainz
there was an issue with the rear left for those who, of course, not watching.
Yeah. So Vettel should still be fine for P5 because Albon was about 5 seconds behind. And there you go. So Vettel comes in. And...
like a left front and a left rear issue.
Yeah. Not good at all. Not good at all. So then, and yeah, that cost him about 4.5 seconds in his pit stop. But still, he should be okay against Albon because Albon was about 5 seconds behind, and Vettel will have now the undercut, I guess, on as Vettel now passes Sergio Perez, I believe that is. Yes, it is, and locks up his inside front, and that will allow Perez to have kind of a run back.
As Ricciardo and Sainz having a ding-dong battle as they come out the pits, which we're not seeing.
And as we predicted, and Daniel Ricciardo...
We did too.
We did. And Daniel Ricciardo has passed Carlos Sainz. So Ricciardo is in a net P7, basically, because Bottas is going to finish at the front of that pack. So Ricciardo has jumped Carlos Sainz. He hasn't jumped Lando Norris, though, so he hasn't got the front of the midfield slot just yet. But Ricciardo ahead of Carlos Sainz as Max Verstappen.
I think that's Albon.
Is that Albon?
Yep, it's Albon.
Yeah, it's Albon coming into the pit stop.
Come on, Crofty.
And good pit stop. Not as good as Brazil, but still 2.8 seconds. And he should come out. He should come out behind Vettel. Let's see. So there's Hülkenberg and Bottas. And there is Sebastian Vettel, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it is. So he will come out, Albon, a couple seconds behind Vettel. So gained a bit of time, but nothing major on Vettel there. So let me just try and do the order a bit because it's a bit all over the place. So Nico Hülkenberg at the moment is actually up in 4th place. Hasn't pitted yet though. And then Valtteri Bottas is down in 5th place at the moment. But Valtteri looking all right. As long as he clears Hülkenberg and then starts to put in some, next good few laps, he should be fine to then rejoin after his pit stop ahead of all the midfield runners and then try and get after anyone ahead of him. But yeah, Bottas at the moment in P5. Then Sebastian Vettel at the moment. P6, here we go. Here's a replay of Sainz and Norris. Sainz will go around the outside, cuts the chicane, and has to let him back through. And
yeah, just carried too much speed into the chicane, couldn't get it slowed down. It was a nice attempt to try and get back past, but of course now Ricciardo's ahead, and we're seeing a replay of action which we've seen live, of course, where Vettel locks up here on his brand spanking new tyres.
Absolutely.
So won't be feeling so what was the word that he's been describing to use these tyres as of late? Peachy. They won't be so peachy after that, will they?
No, absolutely not. And if you're in that car, it's the last thing you need to do is start locking up that tyre. But yeah, Vettel at the moment in 6th place and held up a bit behind Valtteri Bottas, who is obviously hasn't pitted yet. But anyway, Albon is in P7 at the moment. You've got Sergio Perez in 8th place for Racing Point. Kevin Magnussen has got back into 9th because other people have pitted. And then let me just update the lap. Lap 15 out of 55. And then, yeah, Magnussen 9th and Kimi Räikkönen at the moment is in P10. Here comes Sebastian Vettel to go for a move, I think, on Valtteri Bottas. And no, just too far behind. As Bottas being held up by Hülkenberg quite a lot here. And if Valtteri doesn't get ahead of Hülkenberg, then Vettel might be all over the back of him down to this chicane. And Vettel gets in the slipstream. Can he get a move? No, he won't be getting a move done. And they all stay behind. But again, this is what I mean. When a driver who's in a very quick car has to come through the pack without DRS, this is what it creates. Actual racing between the top and the midfield. Even though we know what the result is eventually going to be.
Oh, and Sainz has got past Ricardo, but we haven't seen it. Oh, and Ricardo's getting close again. Ricardo's got past each other 15 times, and we're watching literally nothing.
We literally said this, didn't we, this morning?
Yep, we did.
if people don't know, well, we in the Twitter DMs we were saying about how, Ricardo and Sainz gonna have a great battle, but probably won't see it, and that's literally happened. They've been racing. They've overtook each other like 3 or 4 times, and we haven't seen one bit of it live. Absolute disgrace.
Yeah, I'm reading it now. Yes, let's enjoy Sainz and Ricardo battling and not show it. Yep, that was literally what I sent.
And that was like, what, 4 hours ago?
Yeah, that was 4 hours ago.
Oh my god. FOM, and you know what? It's fitting that they do it for the final race, because they've been doing that all season, just not showing
every single race.
I know.
It's an absolute disgrace.
Every race, they just don't show the action that we need to be seeing, as Hulkenberg still holding up Bottas and Vettel. But yeah, now Sainz is, Ricardo has fallen off a lot. He's now 1.7 behind, so I don't know if Ricardo picked up slight damage or just locked up and went wide or something, but fell back quite a bit. As
we'll see in 5 laps.
Yeah, we will. Anyway, now that it is lap 17 out of 55, and Hulkenberg still holding up this train of cars, Bottas, Vettel, Albon. And you know what? I know we haven't got DRS, but I'm actually enjoying this more without DRS, because it's allowing Hulkenberg to actually compete with these cars, even though we know he's not really competing with these cars, but it's at least allowing him to race for position, and this isn't a situation where they're trying to lap him. But anyway.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. It's funny, of course. This is the racetrack why DRS was really implemented in the first place, when Alonso couldn't get past Petrov. When was it? 2010.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's funny that of course on this very track that it has not been enabled now after 17 laps. As Norris and Sainz looks like they're having a ding dong battle, but of course we're not seeing it.
There's no point even expecting to see it. Yeah. Oh my god, it is such a joke, isn't it? It's such a joke. They just moved up and down a position, and we're not seeing it. It's mental. Anyway, Norris at the moment is 13th. Sainz is 14th. Daniel Ricciardo is in 15th. And is Vettel close enough here for a move? I think the order is broken a bit. As Sebastian Vettel down the inside of Bottas! And very nearly contact at the end of that first DRS straight that isn't a DRS straight anymore. As now here comes Sebastian Vettel down the second straight. And surely he's going to get the move done on Valtteri Bottas, and as Valtteri breaks really late around the outside. Valtteri does break really late and keeps the position. And this is really hurting Vettel's race, because look how much time he's lost to Charles Leclerc. Vettel is 18 seconds behind Leclerc, when he was about 5 or 6 behind when the pit stop, just before the pit stop. He's lost a monumental amount of time in this traffic. And yeah, Hulkenberg is basically destroying Vettel, Albon and Bottas's races at the moment. But anyway, it's now lap 18 out of 55, and Hulkenberg has, and yeah, I think the timing system on the graphic is a bit broken, because Norris and Sainz keep moving up and down positions, I think. And now DRS is enabled. So here we go. So Valtteri Bottas will be passing Hulkenberg basically straight away. But honestly, I kind of wish they didn't bring it back, because I was enjoying it before then. So Bottas now is going to pass Hulkenberg in just a moment. Just making sure the order is correct. And just got to do one position, which is Antonio Giovinazzi, who is very low down in 18th place. And here comes Valtteri Bottas. Down the inside of Hulkenberg. Yes, he does. So there you go. That shows you just the difference DRS gives you when it comes to racing. Yeah, Giovinazzi back up in 18th place. And now Hulkenberg has DRS on Bottas, but will Vettel go for the move? No, he can't. And now has to spend 2 sectors behind Hulkenberg. So Vettel will lose even more time now as Lando Norris passes Romain Grosjean for P12 as we're on lap 19 out of 55.
But Chaz, well, I think what this really shows is how bad the dirty air with these cars is, that the fact that they couldn't even get past Nico Hulkenberg, who has lost 17 or 19 seconds to Leclerc in the time that these cars have been behind him. I think that shows just how bad the dirty air is, and shows that these cars really do need to be cleaned up. And that's why, of course, these 2021 regulations are going to come into effect then, as now Hulkenberg pits immediately as soon as the DRS becomes enabled, and he's going to go onto the hard compounded tyre. Let's see. No, it's not. He's going to go on the soft compounded tyre. No, the medium. The medium. It's a year on. I'm still getting all the tyres mixed up. It's quite hilarious. I'm sure we'll eventually get used to it after they've finally fixed it. But whereabouts we hit Nico Hulkenberg come out in. Ricciardo's up in the 14th past Romain Grosjean, as now Bottas has started to pull away from Vettel, and now Verstappen will be looking at getting Vettel, but it looks like Hulkenberg has come out ahead of Ricciardo.
Yep, he has just about. So there's about a 2-second gap in between Sainz and Ricciardo. So yeah. By the way, it's Albon behind Vettel.
Oh, Albon, crying out loud. Crofty, my bad.
But now that's the thing. Now Vettel's tyres will now be completely destroyed, being in that traffic. Albon, because his car is a bit gentler on tyres, as Hulkenberg passes Sainz now. Not that we need to see it. Up to P12. And now that Vettel has burnt his tyres out a bit, and Albon is in a car that's better on his tyres, I think Albon now is probably just going to now sit behind and just try and edge up to the back of Sebastian Vettel. Because, Vettel was, about 6 seconds behind Leclerc before the pit stop? Now he's a pit stop behind. So he's lost 15 seconds through the bad pit stop and then getting held up by Nico Hulkenberg and Valtteri Bottas. So, Vettel, his race basically destroyed. And here we go. The Hulkenberg DRS ran the outside of Carlos Sainz. Again, not that we needed to see it, but we did anyway. And Hulkenberg up to, a net P8 now in this Grand Prix, as now he's within DRS of Lando Norris. So Hulkenberg looking very good here for finishing at the front of the midfield, which is basically like winning the race in that part of the field. And
of course, he's overcut his teammate Daniel Ricciardo there. He's quite Ricciardo quite comfortably, and of course Ricciardo and Sainz had their squabbles, but still that's remarkable by Hulkenberg to stay out for that long on a track that's pretty notorious for having, for not being exactly great for the tyres. So really good really good drive by Hulkenberg so far.
Yeah, definitely. Very, very good drive to overcut Ricciardo when he was not comfortably behind, but he was about a second and a half behind. As that is who? I think that's Kvyat, behind Raikkonen. Raikkonen currently in 9th place, but he hasn't pitted yet. Perez is in 7th, hasn't pitted. Magnussen is 8th, hasn't pitted. And Raikkonen 9th, hasn't pitted. And then Kvyat is 10th, who started Kvyat on the hard compound tyre. So watch out for Daniel Kvyat in the second half of this Grand Prix, because I think he is probably, as Magnussen pits, he's probably going to be right there at the end for a points finish. Magnussen now into the pits. So Raikkonen now up to 8th in the Alpha, and Kvyat now into 9th place. Daniel had quite a bad start, but has made up a couple positions, I think. As that hard compound tyre he started on now coming in handy, as car behind him, Lando Norris, about 3 seconds behind. So as long as he can stay ahead of Norris and then pit, then he should be getting near enough to the McLarens and Renaults by the end of this Grand Prix. Kvyat has DRS on Raikkonen. Will he go for the move around the outside of Raikkonen? Daniel Kvyat, the first DRS straight chicane. He does not get the move done, but he will get a switchback through the second part of the chicane, and he should surely get a move done here for P8. And Raikkonen defends the inside, and look at that Honda go. Not even a contest. Daniel Kvyat up to P8. Again, though, hasn't pitted. So we'll see how he gets on now. Now he's not held up by Kimi Raikkonen. Also, watch out for Sergio Perez, because Perez is about 15, 16 seconds clear of Lando Norris, which is... Norris will come out ahead if Perez pits, but Perez is not too far behind for when he pits. He should be very quick. Yeah, Kvyat, simple overtake. Switch back through the first part of the chicane. Good exit, and then gets the overtake done on Kimi Raikkonen, who is in clearly this weekend the slower car. And that move is done. And Norris is now in P10 now that Kevin Magnussen has pitted. Nico Hülkenberg is up to P11. And then P12, Carlos Sainz. So in the midfield battle, Norris is leading it at the moment once everyone pits. It should be Norris leading it from Hülkenberg, then Sainz, then Ricciardo, and then you'll have Perez and probably Kvyat behind them looking quite close. Magnussen at the moment is in 14th place as Carlos Sainz is trying to come back at Nico Hülkenberg on now lap 23 out of 55. But Magnussen, yeah, is down to 14th place because he's pitted. And then Kubica into 15th, but he hasn't pitted yet. But still, the Williams pace is actually not that bad at the moment. And then completing the field, it is Antonio Giovinazzi, George Russell, Lance Stroll is 18th. Stroll not heading for a good race because he's way too far behind. And finally, we get to see Lewis Hamilton. Not that we needed to see him because he hasn't done anything really in this race. Oh, and what's that? That's a Williams of front wing damage. It's Kubica.
No, it was not. It was not front wing. It was more barge board. It was a piece of the barge board flying off. You can see there. It was one of the bottom elements. It might have even been the boomerang wing.
Possibly,
Raikkonen's
yeah.
in the pits.
Yeah, Raikkonen pits, and well, there's nothing Williams can do about that. Here we go. So it must be contact. And Antonio tries to go around the outside. And
it's a bit of a flaw.
Yeah, let's see from this angle how this occurred. So Antonio tries to go around the outside. And to be fair, I think the Williams probably shouldn't be fighting that hard. I mean, Antonio is going to pass him anyway. It's a clearly faster car. It was a silly accident. Didn't need to happen.
Well, that's quite a bit of damage for Giovinazzi there as well.
Yeah. And yeah, quite a silly accident, I think. And here we go.
Oh my goodness, what am I seeing here?
Norris and Hülkenberg. Here comes Hülkenberg down the inside. Is he going to go? No, Norris slightly defends his position, not dramatically, but Norris now having to defend quite hard from Nico Hülkenberg, who's on the warpath, looking very quick in the Renault. And I'm just trying to complete the field here. So Stroll back up in 18th place. Grosjean is 19th, but is right behind Lance Stroll. And with Kimi Raikkonen pitting, that puts this Norris-Hülkenberg battle up into P9 and P10. And race control noted Kubica-Giovinazzi incident, which, well, is pretty obvious. Yeah, Norris, P9. and Hulkenberg into P10. And then it is Sainz and Ricciardo in 11th and 12th place at the moment. And then Raikkonen has come out about 6 seconds behind Magnussen. So Magnussen's gained a bit of time there in the undercut, even though he was ahead of him anyway. Magnussen actually not looking too bad at the moment for a, maybe not a points finish, but a finish that's better than what they were hoping for in this Grand Prix. As here comes Nico Hulkenberg down to the first DRS straight chicane. And not close enough at the moment, but he is on the fresher and softer tyres. So if he's going to get past, he's got to make it happen, really, in the next few laps. Because after that, his medium tyre should start going away a bit more than the hard compound, which can last basically all night. As they now enter the final sector.
I think what's really going to allow Nico Hulkenberg to get past Lando Norris here is if he sticks his nose up the inside in the second chicane, the end of the main DRS straight, so then he can offset Lando Norris's exit as Giovinazzi is now trying to come back at the whims of Robert Kubica, Giga Kubica, and he gets it done comfortably in the third chicane, because of course there is a chicane in the first sector, Chaz. You forgot about that. As Hulkenberg is still behind Norris for the time being. But yeah, as I was saying, I think if he can just disrupt Norris's exit out of the second chicane, then I think he will be able to get past Norris down at the second DRS straight.
Yeah, he should. And, well, yeah, there is a first chicane, but, well, let's just forget about it because it should be there. As Lewis Hamilton now begins lap 26, and Lewis Hamilton has not pitted yet. Neither has Max Verstappen. They are still on track, and I don't think, as saying that, Max Verstappen now comes into the pits. I was going to say, I don't think Leclerc is really gaining that much time on them to force them to have pitted a bit earlier than this. But Max Verstappen has pitted onto the hard compound tyre, and bits of pits in front of him, as Leclerc reclaims second place for now. But Max Verstappen will have much fresher tyres and does have probably the quicker car in race trim. So Leclerc on lap 26 is back up to second place. So Charles Leclerc second, as Hulkenberg and Norris were pretty close a moment ago, but now they're not. Yeah, Leclerc up to second, and Max Verstappen is about 5 seconds behind. So with just under 30 laps to go, Max should be able to catch Leclerc on the fresher compound tyre. Should be able to do it. And Hamilton, I presume, is coming in at the end of this lap. And Lewis, under investigation, is Kubica Giovinazzi, officially. Hamilton is about half a minute clear of Charles Leclerc, so he will come out in the lead if he does pit now, and he does. So Lewis Hamilton comes into the pits for his only pit stop of the race, and he should come out about, 7 or 8 seconds clear of Leclerc. Comes in, hard compound tyres go on, slight delay at the rear, but that's all okay. And yeah, he should come out comfortably in the lead of this race. But it is Hamilton leading from Leclerc, Verstappen. Bottas is 4th, but has not pitted yet. And then 5th and 6th, it is Vettel and Albon. Perez is P7. Daniel Kvyat is P8. Perez and Kvyat have not pitted. Norris and Hulkenberg, P9, P10. Norris and Hulkenberg have pitted. Sainz, Ricciardo, Magnussen, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, 11th down to 15th. They have all pitted. And then Russell is now up to 16th place after his teammate, Robert Kubica, pitted. Got to say, Kubica is having a good race to be ahead of his teammate for so long. And now I know he's behind now, but I don't think Russell has pitted yet. So he's having a good race. Is Robert Kubica. As now Max Verstappen tries to catch Charles Leclerc in the final half of this race, as we're now halfway through the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. So only 28 laps, I think, to go in this Grand Prix. As Verstappen heads on to the second DRS straight. Now, thankfully, DRS is in use for the drivers. As just noticed, Grosjean has come up to 16th place. And now Russell in the Williams is down to 17th. Then it is Stroll, Kubica, Gasly at the back. So just make sure the order is all correct. As Antonio Giovinazzi pits again. Don't know why. He went onto the hard compound attire, probably damage to his front wing. And no further action for Kubica and Giovinazzi. Giovinazzi now in the pits, and Max Verstappen, we're currently seeing on a TV, trying to catch up to Charles Leclerc, and he was 2 or 3 tenths quicker, I think, on that lap. So he is starting to catch, slowly but surely, as Max Verstappen about to lap Antonio Giovinazzi in the Alpha. And now we've cut to McLaren versus Renault, basically. They're all in a train, a DRS train at the moment. As they're now into the final sector of the track. Yep, Giovinazzi's pitted, so Romain Grosjean up to 15th place. And then Russell up to 16th. Again, Williams are not too slow in this race. They're not quick, but they're not that slow compared to, say, Alfa and Haas at the moment. Considering that they haven't exactly pitted, absolutely when you should. But, yeah, it is Russell in 16th. And then I think it is Lance Stroll, pretty sure, in 17th place. And here we go. McLaren versus Renault. And no, it's Antonio Giovinazzi in 17th from Lance Stroll in 18th. And then Kubica and Gasly. But for the moment, as Lewis Hamilton does a new fastest lap. I don't know what it is though yet. As he's now 9.3 seconds clear. Is now Max Verstappen 3.3 seconds behind. So Max has took out 1.5 seconds in the last lap and a half. So yeah, Max is really now going to be gunning after Leclerc. Even if Leclerc is going to get disqualified anyway. Going to go for it. But yeah, Stroll 18th and then Kubica back in 19th place on now lap 29 out of 55. Let me just update that. So there you go. And now the order is 100% correct. So there you go. But yeah, Nib Verstappen catching Leclerc pretty quickly. Do you think it will be an easy overtake with fresher tyres, or is it going to be quite tough?
I don't know how it will be, because the Honda has been better and better over the past number of races. So who knows? Let's see. I think with fresher tyres, I think Hamilton was speaking about how you have to have like a 1.4 second delta to actually get past the car. So I don't know. It's probably going to be quite difficult once he catches up to Leclerc. But I'm sure that Verstappen will heave and he'll blow the house down and he'll get past Leclerc. I don't know.
Well, hopefully they go wheel to wheel, because that's what we want to see between two great young drivers.
Yes, we want to see some action instead of watching paint dry.
Exactly. Max so far on this lap is about 1 second up. So, yeah, looking very, very quick. As Valtteri Bottas, I think, is about to come into the pits. Currently P4. Hasn't pitted yet. And is he going to come into the pits? Let's see. Yes, he does. Here comes Valtteri Bottas for his first and only pit stop. And let's see what tyres he goes onto. It should be a set of hard compound tyres. As Sebastian Vettel and Alex Albon will go past him. And yeah, hard compound tyres. Great pit stop. As Toto Wolff applauds the Mercedes mechanics there. And Valtteri now comes out. It should be in 6th place because I think he built a pit stop gap to Perez. We'll see.
Toto. That was quite hilarious by Toto. He's just standing over there watching it. He was cheerleading.
Basically, yeah. Bottas has now come out in 6th place. So, we'll watch his progress because if he can be as quick as his teammate, then he should get up to Albon and Vettel by the end of the race because his car is very quick. And Verstappen, you can see visually a lot closer and closing all the time on Charles Leclerc, who is losing lots of time to Lewis Hamilton ahead, who is clearly faster. Well, I will say, though, Charles Leclerc, despite his car probably not being the most legal car right now, he is driving very well this weekend. He's doing the best he can in that car, and that's all you can ask of him. But the Ferrari car still simply is not good enough to be fighting for the race win. But Leclerc is doing pretty well to still be within a pit stop of Lewis Hamilton at this point. As Sebastian Vettel, for example, is about just over half a minute behind Lewis Hamilton after about 31 laps. So just shows you how well Leclerc's done, even though Vettel did get held up for quite a bit. And yet Max now about a second behind Leclerc. And will he get DRS on this lap? He should. I think he should get DRS. He looked close enough there. We'll see if he is. And no, he does not have DRS, which is a shame. But he is still gaining on the straight. So again, shows you how great the Honda is in a straight line. And just going to update. So yeah, Valtteri Bottas is in 6th place. And is 11.5 seconds is Valtteri. As Max now has DRS and looking very, very close to Charles Leclerc. But does not get past as they now come into the final sector. But Bottas about half a pit stop behind Albon. So Albon is probably going to get caught and beat. And maybe Vettel as well, because Vettel is not that far ahead of Albon. So Valtteri looking good for P4, I think. As he's done a fastest sector 1, and he's probably going to do a fastest lap of the race. As Max, look how much faster he can be in this part of the track, the final sector. Much faster he is into this sector. And if he was ahead of Charles Leclerc, he would be pulling away at probably a second a lap. As Verstappen now on this lap will have 2 doses of the DRS as they come through turn 2 and 3, which is in qualifying flat out. Not sure about the race. As they come to the end of the first sector. And they've got traffic ahead, and that will allow Leclerc, I think, to get DRS. But will that save him from Max Verstappen's fresh tyres? I'm not sure. As Verstappen gets a great run out of the hairpin. And here we go. Max Verstappen on Charles Leclerc. Verstappen gets in the slipstream, going down to the first DRS straight chicane. And Leclerc will have to defend the inside, but he doesn't do it well enough. And Verstappen down the inside. And he gets the move done. Leclerc left the door open and Verstappen took it. You can't do it against him because he will punish you. And he is up to 2nd position as Valtteri Bottas finally breaks the lap record, which has been in since 2009 as Leclerc tries to go around the outside of Verstappen. Oh my goodness, what a move that was almost. Leclerc steaming around the outside. That was mental. From Charles Leclerc.
Must have been absolutely millimeters in between that because the way he turned in looked so aggressive. Boy, oh boy, that would have been an absolute ridiculous move by Leclerc there. As I'm sure we're bound to see replays as we're seeing Verstappen get past down the inside. Nice move, Leclerc. Squeezed, but not enough. And Verstappen comfortably up the inside there. Got the car slowed down pretty well. Okay, we've seen 15 times already. Don't need to see it again. But Leclerc actually got a pretty good run, and I think Verstappen was caught sleeping a little bit there. I don't think he expected Leclerc to go around the outside. He tried it, did Leclerc, but he wasn't able to get it done.
Absolutely. But I was about to say, the lap record finally has been broken. Sebastian Vettel coming into this race had the lap record back from 2009. Ever since then, it's not been broken, and finally it's been broken by Valtteri Bottas. So, and it was a 139.7 it was from Valtteri. As Max Verstappen, now he's passed Charles Leclerc, is pulling away very quickly, and Max won't catch Lewis Hamilton because he's simply too quick. But yeah, Leclerc has now no chance of finishing in second place because Max is way too quick for him in this Grand Prix at this current stage of the race. As Valtteri Bottas, as the Dutch army are at this race as well, they're everywhere. Valtteri Bottas is only 6 seconds behind Alex Albon. So watch out for Valtteri Bottas. He's really closing in now. And also watch out for Sergio Perez later on. Still about 16 seconds ahead of Norris, which is not a pit stop gap. But when he pits, he will be very quick, will Sergio Perez. So watch out for him. He could end up finishing in 8th or 9th place at this rate once he pits. As we're now on lap 34. Out of 55, and yeah, Verstappen passed Leclerc about a lap and a half ago, and Verstappen is already 3 seconds clear of Leclerc, so it just shows you how quick Max is compared to Leclerc with the fresher tyres and the faster car. As they now enter the first sector, 2 drivers of lap 34 out of 55. And George Russell has just come into the pits. And at the moment, the action has stabilised. And really, I think the next action we're going to get is Vettel, Albon, Bottas. Albon, actually, I've just seen, is closing in on Sebastian Vettel quite quickly now. And Valtteri is catching Leclerc Vettel at about... a second and a half a lap. So yeah, this is going to get very interesting between Albon, Vettel, and Bottas. As Vettel, I think, was held up in a bit of traffic, but still Albon is looking very quick.
Yeah, I think Vettel was surely held up by Kubica there because he was a 3-second gap before then.
And Albon, luckily for him, able to then get the DRS and now gains a bit more time on Sebastian Vettel, only about 1.8 seconds behind Vettel. As Valtteri Bottas, look how quick Bottas is. He's closed the gap from 11 seconds to 4 seconds in about 5 laps. He is immensely quick. Once he comes up behind Albon and Vettel, they will not be able to have a chance. And yeah, here we go. I'm guessing he's had to spend the whole final sector behind him.
Oh, dearie me.
And Sebastian... car probably feels like a boat at this part of the track in dirty air. And
I think Kubica might get a penalty there because I'm pretty sure he went through 3 marshal posts.
Yeah,
with the blue flags waving.
Yeah, and that is a clear rule. It's now lap 35, 20 laps to go, and yeah, Albon still a couple seconds behind. But the man to watch now is the Finn, Valtteri Bottas, because he is very quick, even though he's just had to spend another sector behind Robert Kubica, I think it is, who is not letting him through, and now he does, in not the best place, but there you go. Yeah, Valtteri, within the next 2 to 3 laps, he should be climbing all over the back of Alex Albon, because he is in a much faster car, he is the faster driver, and he's on faster tyres. So I don't really see how Albon can compete once Valtteri gets up to the back of him. As something flew off Vettel's car then. Unless he's ran over something.
Yeah, you can see. As Kubica actually just went over it then. It hit his front tyre.
I think something flew off Vettel's car, or it was debris that was already there. But there was debris then. And yeah, Albon, second and a half behind Vettel. And, well, these three I don't think will really care once they get wheel to wheel with each other. I don't think they'll really care what happens because none of these three are going to finish on the podium because Sebastian Vettel is a pit stop behind Charles Leclerc.
Well, Leclerc's probably going to get disqualified, so it's kind of not true.
Yeah.
They've already booked the Ferrari delegate to come to the steward's office, so I'm pretty sure he's going to get disqualified. It does matter, Chaz. It does matter. So here we go. We're going to see a piece of bodywork fly off Vettel's car there, as that was very well spotted and run straight into the back of Albon's front wing. And we're about to see it here. This could have been quite dangerous. And yeah, there you go. Hits the middle of hits the front nose cone there of Albon's car and just flies up into the air.
Yeah, that's not what we want to see at all. Now that Bottas has cleared the Williams, the slow Williams that was holding him up, he's gained another second on Alex Albon in the last lap or so, or the last most 3/4 of a lap. And Albon has maintained the gap to Vettel at about 1.8 seconds. Looking at the rest of the field, nothing's really changing around. Just remembered I need to make sure Giovinazzi is put back ahead. Russell, because Giovinazzi up to 16th place. Kimi Räikkönen is now within DRS just about of Kevin Magnussen. So watch out for that. And the McLaren-Renault battle is stabilised for the moment. Norris ahead of Hulkenberg by about 1.3 seconds. Hulkenberg 1.2 ahead of Sainz, and then Sainz about 1.2 ahead of Ricciardo. So, yeah. But yeah, Giovinazzi is in 16th place on lap 37 out of 55. Lance Stroll is up to 17th because of Russell's pit stop. And then Russell has just passed Robert Kubica for position because Russell pitted a lot later for tyres. So I'm sure the Polish fans will be moaning about that. So Russell is up to 18th. Gasly is still at the back. He must have extra damage to his car because he should be. I mean, he's quicker than the Williams is, but he's not really been close at all to even getting near anyone. As Valtteri on that last lap was about a second quicker than Albon on now lap 37. So Valtteri probably on the next lap should be getting the overtake done, because he probably won't get DRS on this lap unless Albon makes a mistake down to this chicane, and Albon does not. But Alex is having an okay race, nothing special at the moment, as he is still maintaining the gap to Vettel at about 1.7, 1.8 seconds. As now, in this final sector, Valtteri should get within a second, allowing him to then get DRS on the next lap. As we're now on lap 38 out of 55. And still not to pit is Perez and Kvyat. Those are the only drivers who haven't pitted yet. Perez is on the medium, Kvyat is on the hard. He started Kvyat on the hard compound. Oh look, midfield. What's this? This is Kimi Räikkönen on Kevin Magnussen. Can Räikkönen get the move done down to the chicane? Magnussen defends slightly as Lewis Hamilton is coming up to lap them. And Kimi has got to get past. If he wants a hope of points, he has to get past K-Mag here. And now opens up the DRS again. Will he be able to get a move done? No, he won't. He's too far behind. So Raikkonen will be held up again. And then we'll have to let Lewis Hamilton through. And he does very nicely. And now Valtteri Bottas within, or just about within a second of Alex Albon now. Sergio Perez finally pits. I have to say, very good race for him so far. Because again, when he comes out, he will be not that far behind the McLaren-Renault battle. And he'll be on much fresher tyres. Here he comes. Hard compound tyre for Perez. So that puts Daniel Kvyat up to P7. Which, of course, for Toro Rosso, that's not enough for the constructors because Hulkenberg is in P9 and Perez will come out in P12. And again, is not that far behind the two McLarens and two Renaults. So look out for Sergio Perez in the final 16 laps of this 2019 Formula One season as Charles Leclerc is coming in again. for a pit stop, and that's understandable.
Yeah, got a free pit stop, don't they? And oh, here we go. They got on the soft compound tyre and watch them not be faster than are they pitting Vettel here as well? Because they had another set of tyres and they're still there. They might be
And
pitting Vettel as well.
they
They are
are.
indeed. Vettel's coming into the pits.
But that doesn't make any sense. Medium tyres for Sebastian Vettel. And he goes again. Better pit stop than last time. But I'm not sure if that... I'm not sure about that. I mean, with Leclerc, nothing to lose. But with Vettel, probably should have waited until Bottas came up to the back and passed them. Until they did anything about it. But yeah, Vettel now comes out in 6th place. And now Valtteri Bottas has DRS on Alex Albon. And actually, come to think of it, and Bottas down the inside of Albon. And he gets it done at the chicane. Come to think of it though, Nib, Leclerc's tyres, if they go off quickly, Valtteri will then catch Leclerc for the podium. Even though, of course, Leclerc will get disqualified anyway, but...
I don't. I think in the cooler conditions now, as the night is truly set in, and of course there's less and less fuel in the cars, I think that Leclerc's tyres will be okay.
Well, we'll see. Ferrari will be hoping that's the case. And Bottas, yeah, up to P4. Albon P5. Vettel is now in 6th position. Kvyat is 7th, hasn't pitted yet, and he won't pit probably until around... Give it another lap or two, and then he'll pit for soft tyres, I reckon. And then, yeah, Kvyat 7th. Norris up to 8th. And look at Perez. He's already closed about 2.5 seconds to Ricciardo in a lap. Perez is absolutely on the march here. As Verstappen continuing in 2nd. And I don't think Verstappen needs to be taking an extra pit stop here because, well, they have half a minute's gap to Leclerc. Don't think Leclerc will catch that. But yeah, Norris up to 8th. And then Nico Hülkenberg is in 10th position. Or 9th position, sorry. And then 10th position is actually Carlos Sainz. And Perez, I have to say, please, for the final 15 laps, FOM, please show Sergio Perez come through the pack. Please. Please, please, please. Because he's clearly the man on the move in the entire field. But we won't see it, most likely. Yeah, completing the top 10, Carlos Sainz. And then... And Raikkonen's passed Magnussen, but we haven't seen it. But yeah, Daniel...
Even though they were showing up before when he didn't get past.
Yeah. Ricciardo 11th, and then it is Carlos Sainz in... Oh no, Sergio Perez, sorry, in 12th place. And Perez, look at Perez. There we go. And Perez is going to absolutely monster his way past Ricciardo. There's nothing Ricciardo can do, surely, against the fresh-tired Sergio Perez. And no, Ricciardo doesn't really defend the position. And Perez up to 11th. And Perez, I reckon, can finish at the front of the midfield here. Because, look, Sainz, Hülkenberg, Norris not that far ahead as Ricciardo's going to try and come back. Perez is going to have to try and defend this. Ricciardo, though, I think thinks a bit more sensibly and knows that Perez is much faster now than his car. And yet Ricciardo didn't really defend as much as he would normally because, again, I think he knows that Perez is simply too quick. Yeah, Perez up to P11. And on the next lap, he should be all over the back of Carlos Sainz, who is just ahead of him by about a second, as Daniel Kvyat now comes in, and he should come in, or come out rather, on the soft compound tyre. So watch out for Kvyat as well at the very end. As Kvyat should come out in 12th position. As Kvyat now in the pit exit, yeah, he should come out in 12th position. So, Lap 42 it is out of 55. About 13 laps to go. It's Hamilton leading from Verstappen, Leclerc, Bottas, Albon, Vettel. And then Lando Norris is now up to 7th in the McLaren. But he's going to be under threat a lot from Sergio Perez, who's on the move. Nico Hülkenberg is in 8th place. And then 9th is Carlos Sainz. And 10th is Sergio Perez. Got to say, though, considering how Racing Point have been in the second half of this season, if only between the Spanish and German Grand Prix they had a good enough car, Racing Point could have been fighting Renault right now for 5th in the Constructors. Probably would be in 5th in the Constructors. But obviously that's not the case. But yeah, Perez looking very quick at the moment. Yeah, Sainz is 9th, and then it's Perez in 10th place. And then Ricciardo is now 11th, and I don't think Ricciardo now really has a chance of a points finish. Because now Daniel Kvyat will catch him very quickly in the Toro Rosso. As Toro Rosso, I'm sure, now going for it. And Carlos Sainz is coming into the pits. That is a weird decision. Let's see what tyres he goes on to. Should be soft tyres.
What on earth is going on?
I don't understand why he would pit. And what tyres does he put on? Medium compound tyres. I don't get that. But I'm sure there's a reason. As he's now a lap down. Sainz on the leaders. As we're now lap 43 out of 55. And that promotes, just as I said, Ricciardo doesn't have a chance of points. Carlos Sainz pits. Perez now up to P9, and Perez is about 3 seconds behind Hülkenberg. And then, yeah, Perez 9th, Ricciardo up to 10th, as Bottas is now just about, I think, lapping in the similar range to now Charles Leclerc. So yeah, Leclerc's tyres only gave him about 4 or 5 laps extra grip, because now Valtteri's lapping around the same as Leclerc. And then yeah, Ricciardo 10th. Kvyat is up to P11, but is about 1.3 seconds behind Daniel Ricciardo. And then Kimi Räikkönen is in 12th position. Kimi's had a pretty good race. Started the race 17th. He's up to 12th. Might be 11th or 10th even if the other cars ahead pit. But I don't think they will. And then it's Magnussen 13th. And then you've got Carlos Sainz now down in 14th position. And Daniel Ricciardo now pits. And he goes onto the soft compound tyres. I did not expect this. I'm being honest. I did not expect this at all. But
well, I mean, since Sainz pitted, I mean, why not? And he's obviously going to get overtaken by Kvyat, so worth having some fun into what's been, well, I'm sure, quite a boring race, just sitting behind Carlos Sainz the entire time. So yeah, Ricciardo's going to have some fun on these last couple of laps last few laps, and yeah, have some fun.
Yeah, well, if the soft tyres really work well, like they did at Kota at the end of that race, then maybe he'll be right there at the end. And here we go, Carlos Sainz on Kevin Magnussen, and Magnussen does not defend. But yeah, if they really work well at the end and the hard tyres start to struggle, then maybe Ricciardo will be, sniffing around for a point at the end. But Kvyat is now up to P10. Raikkonen is P11. If I was Alpha, I'd keep Kimi Räikkönen out, to be honest, because if cars ahead keep pitting, then Alpha could nick a point here. They're close enough to do so, as Sainz now up to P12. And Ricciardo came out in 14th place, I think. So, yeah, there you go. Ricciardo in 14th. Here's Lewis Hamilton, who is about I think 15 seconds clear of Max Verstappen. And even though he has got the best car this weekend, I think still, even if he had the second best car, it would have been very, very hard to beat him this weekend because he has been simply way too good for the rest of the field. As Verstappen is second, Leclerc third, Bottas fourth, Albon fifth, Vettel sixth. Vettel's not really catching Albon. As Lewis Hamilton laps Lando Norris now. So the entire midfield is lapped. As Perez tries now to go for a move on Nico Hülkenberg for P8. And he might have a look here, I reckon. Down to turn 11, I think it is. Gets in the slipstream. DRS. Will he go for it? No, he's not close enough. And almost has a spin there. Gets a bit of oversteer. And now suspend the whole second sector behind Nico Hülkenberg. But Perez probably will end up getting a top 8 finish, given his speed. As Ricciardo 14th, and the rest of the order is as it is. Perez comes into the final couple corners, and surely he'll be eyeing up a move soon enough down one of the DRS straights. As Daniel Kvyat, though, also not that far behind. Kvyat about 2.5 seconds behind, and of course, Daniel is on softer tyres because he started on the hard tyre. I don't know what tyres Daniel is on. I think it's medium, most likely. But Daniel now a threat to Hülkenberg and possibly Perez if Perez can't pass Hülkenberg. And Hülkenberg, remember, pitted to the medium tyre. So Hülkenberg's tyres will be going off quite a lot now in these final few laps as Perez now in the slipstream. Down to the first DRS chicane. Will he go for the move? Yes, he does. Down the inside. Great move by Sergio Perez. Just threw it down the inside, and Hülkenberg, I think, kind of let him go there. But now Hülkenberg will try to come back at Perez. Down to the second chicane. And will Hülkenberg go right round the outside? No, he will not. Sergio Perez up to P8 and now has about a 3-second deficit to Lando Norris. So Perez has enough time, has about 8 laps to go to get P7 here, which would round off the season very, very well. And yet just sent it, and Hülkenberg didn't even try to defend that. I'm not saying Hülkenberg didn't want to defend it, but he knew that that was a move coming from a long way back.
That was certainly an interesting celebration. That was a great move by Perez, who is just, he just has so much more braking performance than Hülkenberg on those fresher tyres that he has. We're seeing Charles Leclerc going through the final sector now. Let's see actually what the gap is between him and Bottas. It's 8.8 seconds, so Bottas won't be getting past Charles Leclerc unless his tyres fall off the cliff. But, tyres under Pirelli don't have cliffs anymore, like there once was. And, certainly that needs to be looked at. But I think that in the next couple laps, of course, we'll see Kvyat get past Hülkenberg, perhaps. And also we should be saying, I was just about to say, we should Danny Rick and Kevin Magnussen. And here we go. As now Kvyat is trying to get past Hülkenberg through the second chicane and now down the second DRS straight. Is he going to have a better exit, and is he going to be able to get past Nico Hülkenberg for P9? Danny Kvyat, he's in the slipstream. He's gaining massively. He's going to go down the inside as his front wing's hitting the floor there, it looks like. And he gets past Nico Hülkenberg for P9 in this Grand Prix. And also now Lance Stroll has pitted, and also Daniel Ricciardo has gotten past Kevin Magnussen whilst his teammate was getting overtaken by Danny Kvyat. And now Sainz has gotten past Kimi Räikkönen. It's all kicking off here.
Yep.
Finally, some action in the race.
Absolutely. I was about to say, though, Renault is kind of falling apart for them because I don't think Ricciardo will get back to the points, and Hulkenberg looks under threat from Sainz now. So yeah, kind of falling apart for Renault, but they've got to try something. And yeah, his front wing looks a bit weird, doesn't it? It's a bit down on one side.
Yeah, with that camera angle, that did look a little bit weird.
Oh,
There's a Lance Stroll's actually retiring from Ferrari.
the only retirement of the Grand Prix.
Hello, Ted.
As Gasly now is actually racing someone. Gasly's about to pass Robert Kubica for position for 18th. So Gasly actually able to do something in this race, as we're now on lap 48 out of 55. And yet Gasly passes Kubica, so Gasly has actually been able to race someone. But let me do some of this order. So at 48, you got Sainz now past Raikkonen for P11, as Perez is now about a second behind Lando Norris. So Norris, well, he'll be driving the wheels off that car, but Perez in a much faster car at this stage of the Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz up to P11. Raikkonen is in 12th. Ricciardo is 13th. And then Magnussen has dropped down to 14th. I will say, though, Magnussen hasn't done that bad today. Pace hasn't been too bad. Not as bad as I thought it would be. And here we go. So just simple overtake on the first Dura straight.
Kevin Magnussen certainly has had a much better race than Roman Grosjean, who I think we've barely seen it on television screens so far this race. As, of course, our main focus point here in the last 6-7 laps remaining, he's going to beat Lando Norris versus Sergio Perez for P7. The battle of the midfield. Let's see who comes out on top here. And I think that Perez is certainly in a very good position to do so. His first stint staying out to, what was it, lap 38 or something, has done him wonders. He drove an absolutely fantastic stint. And it's shown that the overcut has really worked today, because we've seen Hulkenberg jump Ricciardo as he was holding up Albon, Bottas and Vettel. The overcut has actually really worked around here today. And I remember just only a couple of seasons ago, that certainly was not the case around this track.
No, it was not. And we've seen plenty of times this season the overcut can work as long as you stay consistent with lap times and you babysit the tyres. If you look at Ricciardo, for example, in Mexico, even though he wasn't the hard tyre, still, the overcut has worked plenty of times this season. And Perez, I think, so far would probably have to be one of my drivers of the day, because he has driven very well, hasn't put a foot wrong. As that's Kvyat, I think, locking up. Yeah, it is. And
he didn't even try to come back on the track. He's done it for Fernando where Alonso just cut all of the chicanes.
And he's pulled out a 3-second gap to Hulkenberg, so he shouldn't be losing position if he does that again. And Hamilton now 17 seconds clear of Max Verstappen. Again, he does have the best car this weekend, but I don't think it's that quick. Valtteri Bottas is now starting to catch Charles Leclerc, so Leclerc's tyres have gone. And I'm not sure Valtteri will catch up enough to pass him, but he will catch him by a few seconds. And look at the amount of time he's gaining in the final sector. He's gained about nearly a second so far. And he can just about see Leclerc ahead of him going into turn 1. So Valtteri, he keeps pushing as hard as possible. Maybe he could have a look at the end. But as you said, Nib, with Leclerc's basically guaranteed penalty, Bottas is already in 3rd place in this Grand Prix. And I think there's a problem with Norris's transponder. That's why his thing keeps lighting up on the FOM thing. He had a problem in Brazil as well, where it dropped off for a few laps. So, yeah, more issues there. Daniel Ricciardo passes Kimi Raikkonen for 12th position. Last year, that would have been for 3rd, but how times change. As
Raikkonen's back ahead.
Oh, Raikkonen's back ahead. So let me just put that back. And now
Ricardo's back ahead.
Ricardo. So that must have they must be in the first two or the second and third chicanes. Perez just about within DRS now. Just about, as we're now on lap 51 out of 55. Guys, in the chat, let us know what would you rate the race out of 10 and who is your driver of the day. Let us know in the chat, and after the race finishes, for a few minutes, I'll read out your comments and who you think has been driver of the day and what you've thought of the race. But, yeah, Ricciardo up to 12th then, ahead of Kimi Räikkönen. And the rest of the field is as it is, as Perez looks a lot closer now. And by the way, Valtteri Bottas is definitely a lot closer to Charles Leclerc. He's took about a second out of him so far this lap, Bottas. As Perez now comes after Lando Norris. Won't be able to go for a move here, surely. No, but he is so close. If he gets a good exit here, Perez, as Lando, I think deliberately is trying to get a good exit there. I think Lando's got too good of an exit, so Perez will have to wait. He'll have to wait unless he has monumental slipstream down to this corner, and no, he does not. But Valtteri Bottas, I think, will pass Charles Leclerc because he's caught him by about 2 seconds on this lap.
Well, we're only saying a couple laps ago that the gap was 8.8 seconds. So, yeah, Leclerc's tyres have fallen off the cliff, as I was just saying that there was no cliff in F1 with these Pirelli tyres.
Well, there is a cliff in that Ferrari, as Leclerc's now coming to the end of Sector 2. So he's gained that amount of time in the first 2 sectors where the Ferrari is actually at its best around this track. So now we're going to the final sector where the Ferrari dies a horrible death.
Right, let's see. Let's see how much he gains. This will be interesting. I reckon he's got to gain at least a second. He's gained 3/10 already.
Yep. So now Bottas 2 or 3 corners behind. Yeah, he probably gain about 8-9 tenths of a second, I reckon. So far he's gained about half a second. And Leclerc comes across the line. Bottas has actually done that well in the final sector. Got a bit of traffic.
Oh, of course. Of course, it is Kevin Magnussen who's holding there.
But he will get some DRS assistance if Magnussen doesn't let him through before the detection point.
Please.
I
think it might be Norris's transponder issue, but still, I really only care about this battle, if I'm perfectly honest.
Yeah, and Bottas. Yeah, Bottas has lost about half a second in the dirty air of Kevin Magnussen, but will get DRS, so he should claim it all back by the time they get down to the chicane. And yeah, he will. He'll claim all that time back he's lost. As also Vettel 2 seconds behind Albon. So Vettel will be going for a move pretty soon. It's all kicking off at the very end of the season. And Valtteri now will not have a car stuck in front of him for the final sector, so he'll be able to push as hard as possible. And we now look at Lewis Hamilton. His visor cam, as he is 16.5 seconds clear. Now 16 seconds clear of Max Verstappen on lap 53 out of 55. So we've got, about 2.5 laps to go of the season as he comes onto the first DRS straight, having lapped all of the midfield. As Leclerc coming to the end of his lap 52 is about 3 seconds clear of Bottas. So Valtteri gained about 8 tenths in the final sector, I think. So if he keeps that up, Valtteri, he might be able to go for a move on the final lap. Vettel, though, I think will be going for a move in the next few corners, to be honest, because Albon is, he's dropped completely off the pace as Alex Albon. And just looking at the gaps of Perez now starting to drop back. Lando's doing very well to keep that position, to be honest. And here we go. Vettel on Albon. Albon is on worn hard tyres. Vettel on fresher mediums. And yeah, with that straight line speed of the Ferrari, don't think this is a contest. As they come to the hairpin. Turn 7. And yeah, Albon is struggling a lot. can barely get the car around the hairpin. So Sebastian here, DRS open, and this will not even be a contest. As Lewis Hamilton does the fastest lap of the race. And Vettel, cruises around the outside. Albon comes back up the inside. Oh, look at that. Just steams back. And a new lap record of 39.2 for Hamilton. What a monumental lap that is on those tyres. As Vettel will come back on Albon. Round the outside. And Albon, will he dive back down the inside? No, he won't. Because he'll have a collision. So there you go. Sebastian Vettel up to 5th. And that's where he will finish his 2019 season. Well, actually, he'll finish in 4th because of Leclerc's, going to be penalty. Yeah, Hamilton, 39.2 on, 25 lap old hard tyres. That is absolutely incredible. Very similar to Silverstone. And a new lap record, of course, as we are on currently the penultimate lap of the season. And as Norris and Perez, according to the transponders, trade positions every corner. Perez, though, look, is only 3/10 behind, so we probably should be seeing that right now, but we won't. Here we go.
Oh.
Perez, come on, send it. Please send it. DRS. Down the inside. Surely Lando defends very aggressively. Will Perez go around the outside? No, he will not. But forcing Norris offline, that's exactly what he needs to do to get a move done. But he can't make a move through here.
That was really, really a really good decision by Lando to defend very late there and move suddenly, not very just slowly, because it meant that Perez just couldn't do anything at all.
Absolutely. As look, Hulkenberg, look, it's got Sainz and Ricciardo all over the back of him for P10. So that'll be kicking off. But it's the last lap of the season. It is completely flown by. Nib, quickly. Rating out of 10 for the race, and who's your driver of the day?
2, I only woke up at 9 a.m. UK time, basically, and I already want to go to bed because this race has been so shite. There are 2 races on the calendar that need to be gone. It's this race and the French Grand Prix, and the sooner this race is gone, the better.
And who is your driver of the day?
Lewis Hamilton.
Right.
Could barely be one driver.
Sorry about your swear word, but you're right. You're right. There's no point in debating it. As Bottas is now second, was he 1.3 down on Leclerc, 1.2 now. So Bottas might be able to have a look, but most likely not. And here we go, look. Bottas just not close enough. I mean, Bottas surely is in max engine mode to try and maybe have a look. Can he get DRS Bottas? No, and I don't think he will get a move done. But Lewis Hamilton is now coming around the final few corners. If they cut to it in just a moment, which they will. But they're going to show this. Leclerc Bottas for obvious reasons because they're very close. And Perez has passed Norris out of view as Lewis Hamilton comes around the final corner and wins the 2019 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Completely dominates the race. He's dominated the season. Well done to him. And yeah, definitely. And I have to agree. Driver of the day has to be Lewis Hamilton. Second place, Max Verstappen. And here is Bottas. Look, he's going to probably try and send it if he gets a close look. Max Verstappen second. That would be great.
Come on, Bottas.
Verstappen will finish in second. And dirtyair.com in the final few corners. And yeah, he won't be going for a move unless he wants to take Leclerc out of the race. And
all I can hear in the background is screaming on his head when he's about a second behind him through the frickin'.
That just sums up David Croft. But yeah, Hamilton wins. Max Verstappen second. And let me just do the text in the top left. Top right, sorry. Race has finished. And yeah, Hamilton wins from Max Verstappen in second. Charles Leclerc third until the FIA investigation. Bottas fourth. Vettel fifth. Albon sixth. Perez got P7 at the end. And Perez, after Hamilton, is my driver of the day. Hamilton is my official driver of the day. But if Lewis Hamilton didn't do what he did today, it would have to be Sergio Perez, because what a drive by Perez to come through the McLarens and Renaults to get into the race-winning position for midfield teams. Yeah, P7 Perez, and then P8 Norris, and then Kvyat, and then I think Hülkenberg held off Carlos Sainz and Daniel Ricciardo. I don't know that for a fact. But yeah, Hülkenberg I think hung on for P10. There you go, guys. Race is finished. Season's finished. And let's see what you guys have to say then in the chat. If Hülkenberg has not kept P10, I'll make sure to update it when I can. Here we go. They show the race result, or they're just going to show the fireworks. But let's see what you guys have to say then in the chat. Sorry for the Interlagos race, Chazza, no problem. It was such a shame we couldn't do a stream for that race, because me and Nib wouldn't have a voice after that race if we were streaming. Let's find some comments here. Well done this year. Thank you very much. Congrats to Lewis. People disappointed about Lando. If Leclerc will get disqualified, why didn't they black flag him? Because Ferrari have the right to, give their viewpoint. It's not a dictatorship. You have to allow both sides to argue their case. That's why they'll be waiting till after to see what Ferrari are going to argue. And did Hülkenberg get P10? I assume he did. And of course, Nico Hülkenberg gets driver of the day. That was planned, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago for him to get driver of the day. But let's find some other final comments here. Cheers, Chaz. I love your channel and commentary. Thank you very much, mate. And thank you. And you know what? Thank you all for joining me and Nib this season, as Hamilton and Verstappen and probably Leclerc will be doing donuts down the grid.
Thank you. Hamilton was going to go on the wall for a second.
Thank you guys so much for joining me and Nib this season for the watch-alongs. It's been great. We've had so many great moments, and I am thinking of doing a kind of best of watch-alongs video maybe before the end of the year. I don't know if I will do it, but I'll have a think and see what I can do. But thank you guys so much for the watch-alongs this season. It's been so great. Most of the season has been, I think, pretty good. Lots of exciting moments, and this race today wasn't great. I haven't given it a rating out of 10. I'd probably give it I'll give it a 5. That's the best I can give it. Yeah, I know, but as I predicted, it had its moments, but most of the time it was just kind of and that's why I'm giving it a 5, because it was just kind of a meh type race. But right, let's look at the chat quickly. Seki Hybrid race 1 out of 10, abysmal track to host the final race. It is. It should be Brazil. It really should be. Thank you guys for thanking me. And Nib in the chat. Nico for driver of the day. Thank God for that. Let's find some other comments here if I can. Lewis the Donut King. Thank you, Erin, Danny, and Tazim Ahmed in the chat. Your comments. Peter King says Bottas came up short of a podium, but what a race it was for Wingman. I think Valtteri drove well, but I will say the car was clearly very quick in the race today. So that's why he was able to be, in that position. But Valtteri did drive very well, but I think it was mostly because of the car. The car clearly this weekend the best in this Grand Prix. Yeah, Valtteri, good drive. Definitely good drive. But not as good as his teammate, Lewis Hamilton. Crystal Racing, thank you for your great work, Chaz and Nib. Let's not forget Hugh Bear, Lauder, and Charlie Whiting. Absolutely. Astro Steve, when's the race review coming? Probably in about 35-40 minutes from now, because I'm about to come off in a moment. Let's find other comments I may have missed. Kimi finished ahead of Giovinazzi by 45 seconds. Bit weird, to be honest, considering Antonio out-qualified him and actually got a much better start than Kimi. And right, let's find one final comment. Come off. Hamilton driver of the decade. That's an interesting talking point.
Yes, end of story.
Yeah, he'd have to be. He'd have
easy.
to be. I mean, Vettel by 2013 was very, very good, but since then,
of course,
he hasn't been anywhere near as good. I think 2015 Sebastian was very good, but really since 2013, it's been Lewis Hamilton. Or not since 2013, but no, since beginning of 2014, it's been Lewis Hamilton, the king of Formula One, basically. Even though in 2016 Rosberg beat him, Hamilton was still driving at a very high level. So yeah, Lewis Hamilton, definitely I'd say driver of the decade. But guys, that is it for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix and the 2019 Formula One season. Nib, I just want to say thank you very much for coming on the watch-alongs this season, helping out on the watch-alongs. And I'm sure you've had a lot of fun this season.
Of course, I think the highlight of my season probably when I absolutely screamed when Bottas crashed at turn 1 in Hockenheim.
Yeah, that was funny.
Listening back to that was quite hilarious. But of course, thank you for even doing this, of course. And even when you're doing it still on a laptop, I don't know how on earth you were streaming on a laptop. So kudos to you. Finally, you have a proper setup now, and everything's a lot more smoothly. And of course, it's great to do them together with you, mate. I thank you a lot.
No problem. And yeah, I was streaming off my laptop until the Russian Grand Prix, I think, was the last race. And of course, of that race watch along, I was half an hour late because my computer basically just said, no, you're not streaming today. But yeah, finally got a good PC, and we've had great times this season. Viewership wise, we had a couple races where we had 2,000 people watching live at least during the sessions. Hopefully next season, if the championship battle goes to the end or nearer the end, hopefully we can have big numbers again. But yeah, thank you for coming on and helping out, because as you can tell, my throat cannot do an entire Grand Prix on my own. So yeah, thank you for coming on, mate. And we'll see you for the podcast on probably Tuesday evening. So yeah, thanks for coming on again, mate.
Whenever we want to do the podcast, I don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, thanks for coming on, mate. And just to let you guys know in the chat what the plan is for content during the winter break. So, race review coming up in the next 40 minutes. Incident analysis will come out tomorrow. Not going to be that detailed, though. Going to be looking at probably Verstappen, Leclerc, Gasly's crash. But again, it's not going to be anything that dramatic. And then the plan is Tuesday night, 7 p.m, we'll be live to review the 2019 season. And we'll go through every team, every driver, look at the season, look at, how great the races have been in terms of excitement, championship tables, and obviously answer questions from you guys. So make sure to come along Tuesday, 7 p.m. UK time to this channel with me and Nib, probably for a couple hours, to review the 2019 Formula One season. That doesn't mean the content coming after, though, is not going to be 2019 review type stuff. I have got a big video planned on Ferrari's 2019 that might be split into two parts. It's going to be a pretty long review of Ferrari's season, which I cannot wait for, and I know you guys cannot wait for as well. So yeah, probably going to be a two-part review of Ferrari. Also, we'll have another couple podcast episodes coming out in the couple weeks following next week. Of course, leading up to Christmas. I'll have a video coming out on Max Verstappen as well, whether he's been the best driver this season and who has been the best driver if he hasn't been. And also, I'll have a video on Carlos Sainz, giving him the respect he deserves for this season. And I'm probably going to upload a video about Renault as well. And, as I said earlier, might have the highlights of our watch-alongs this season coming up around Christmas. It's like a little, special Christmas video. And I'm probably going to do a full-on, season review, every single race, in a row that I think I did last season or the season before for the entire season. And then once we get to January and early February, it's going to be all about 2020 and the talking points going into that season. But guys, thank you guys so much for this season, for the watch-alongs. And don't forget, guys, if you are new, we are going to be doing them next season, of course, for qualifying and the race. So do not forget to subscribe for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it there. Or go to my homepage and do it there. And hit the notifications bell, hit the like button as well, helps out the channel grow, and it does show me that you guys want to see this content continue. Comment down below what you thought of this video and what you thought of the race, the season, anything that happened in this Grand Prix. And as well, don't forget to join our Discord server, link below in the description for that. And that is the best place, that server, for notifications, my videos and streams. And we have about 430, I think, people in that server. So if you want to join the server, make sure to do so. Follow me on Twitter at Chaz6110. Make sure to like my Facebook page. That's ChazzaHDF1 on Facebook. And also check out my website, chazzahd.com, for more content like this. But guys, until my next video, and until the 2020 Formula 1 season, where we'll be back in Melbourne in mid-March for the 2020 Australian Grand Prix, it has been me, ChazzaHD. Goodbye.